विष्णोर्योनिं कल्पयतु त्वष्टारूपाणि पिंशतु आसिञ्चतु प्रजापतिर्धाता गर्भं दधातु ते गर्भं धेहि सिनीवालि गर्भं धेहि सरस्वती गर्भं ते अश्विनौ देवा आधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा हिरण्यै अरणीयं निर्मन्थतो अश्विना तं ते गर्भं हवामहे दश्मे मासि सूतवे विष्णोर्योनिं कल्पयतु त्वष्टारूपाणि पिंशतु आसिञ्चतु प्रजापतिर्धाता गर्भं दधातु ते गर्भं धेहि सिनीवालि गर्भं धेहि सरस्वती गर्भं ते अश्विनौ देवा आधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा हिरण्यै अरणीयं निर्मन्थतो अश्विना तं ते गर्भं हवामहे दश्मे मासि सूतवे विष्णवे प्रभविष्णवे नमो 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 नमः महालक्ष्म्यै महालक्ष्म्यै नमो 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 नमः नारायणाय विद्महे वासुदेवाय धीमहि तन्नो विष्णुः प्रचोदयात् महालक्ष्म्यै च विद्महे विष्णुपत्न्यै च धीमहि तन्नो लक्ष्मीः प्रचोदयात् शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः विष्णोर्योनिं कल्पयतु त्वष्टारूपाणि पिंशतु आसिञ्चतु प्रजापतिर्धाता गर्भं दधातु ते गर्भं धेहि सिनीवालि गर्भं धेहि सरस्वती गर्भं ते अश्विनौ देवा आधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा हिरण्यै अरणीयं निर्मन्थतो अश्विना तं ते गर्भं हवामहे दश्मे मासि सूतवे विष्णोर्योनिं कल्पयतु त्वष्टारूपाणि पिंशतु आसिञ्चतु प्रजापतिर्धाता गर्भं दधातु ते गर्भं धेहि सिनीवालि गर्भं धेहि सरस्वती गर्भं ते अश्विनौ देवा आधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा ॐ हिरण्ययी अरणीयं निर्मन्थतो अश्विना तं ते गर्भं हवामहे दश्मे मासि सूतवे विष्णोर्योनिं कल्पयतु त्वष्टा रूपाणि विंशतु आसिञ्चतु प्रजापतिर्धाता गर्भं दधातु ते ॐ गर्भं धेहि सिनीवारि गर्भं धेहि सरस्वती गर्भं ते अश्विनौ देवाव आधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा ॐ हिरण्ययी अरणीयं निर्मन्थतो अश्विना तं ते गर्भं हवामहे दश्मे मासि सूतवे विष्णवे प्रभविष्णवे नमो 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 नमः ॐ महालक्ष्म्यै महालक्ष्म्यै नमो 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 नमः नारायणाय विद्महे वासुदेवाय धीमहि तन्नो विष्णुः प्रचोदयात्
has impact and power. Pardon me. How do you know a chart has impact and power? You look at the angles. You look at the angles. The angles are these dark lines. These are the sensitive parts of the chart. This is house 10. I'll turn my chair around a little bit. This is sitting sideways on my desk. This is house 10. This is house 1. Select for consistency. This is house 4. This is house 7. These are called the angular houses. They have a little more oomph, a little more initiative, and really what they have is prominence in consciousness. You don't need to go looking for them. Now, as you know, I use whole sign houses. And so if it sounds like I say Mars is in the 10th house when it looks like it's in the 9th house, just go with me on that, okay? Because it's really in the 10th house. And we know it's in the 10th house because Libra is rising and because Mars is so close to the house cusp. Even using quadrant houses, that counts as the 10th house. So let's go over the bit about angular, what that means. So we have Mars right sitting there right smack on the 10th cusp. We have Eris right on the 7th cusp, and that means the Chiron Eris conjunction. Both of these planets are in direct motion. Chiron is heading for a conjunction to Eris. That happens in spring, but it is imminent now. It's imminent now because that thing's happening, and with events like this, we are feeling it. So I'm not saying what these planets mean yet, I'm not interpreting yet. Second, we have the void of course sun right early in the 4th, and it's about to change signs and make a conjunction to Pluto. That's the sun, that's Pluto. I have to remember, I don't need to look up at you. I can look down at my chart.
Okay, Eli, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to put the Sanskrit fertility chant back on. Hi there, everyone listening. We'll be with you shortly.
विष्णुर्योनिं कल्पयतु त्वष्टारूपाणि पिंशतु वासिञ्चतु प्रजापतिर्धाता गर्भं दधातु ते गर्भं देहि सिनीबालि गर्भं देहि सरस्वती गर्भन्ते अश्विनौ देवाव आधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा विष्णुर्योनिं कल्पयतु त्वष्टारूपाणि पिंशतु आसिञ्चतु प्रजापतिर्धाता गर्भं दधातु ते गर्भं देहि सिनीबालि गर्भं देहि सरस्वती गर्भन्ते अश्विनौ देवाव आधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा हिरण्ययी अरणीयं निर्मन्थतो अश्विना तं ते गर्भं हवामहे तस्मै मासि सूतवे विष्णुर्योनिं कल्पयतु त्वष्टारूपाणि पिंशतु आसिञ्चतु प्रजापतिर्धाता गर्भं दधातु ते गर्भं देहि सिनीबालि गर्भं देहि सरस्वती गर्भन्ते अश्विनौ देवाव आधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा हिरण्ययी अरणीयं निर्मन्थतो अश्विना तं ते गर्भं हवामहे तस्मै मासि सूतवे विष्णुर्योनिं कल्पयतु त्वष्टारूपाणि पिंशतु आसिञ्चतु प्रजापतिर्धाता गर्भं दधातु ते गर्भं देहि सिनीबालि गर्भं देहि सरस्वती गर्भन्ते अश्विनौ देवाव आधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा हिरण्ययी अरणीयं निर्मन्थतो अश्विना तं ते गर्भं हवामहे तस्मै मासि सूतवे विष्णवे प्रभविष्णवे नमो 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 नमः महालक्ष्म्यै महालक्ष्म्यै नमो 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 नमः नारायणाय विद्महे वासुदेवाय धीमहि तन्नो विष्णुः प्रचोदयात् महालक्ष्म्यै च विद्महे विष्णुपत्न्यै च धीमहि तन्नो लक्ष्मीः प्रचोदयात् शान्ति शान्ति विष्णुर्योनिं कल्पयतु त्वष्टारूपाणि विंशतु आसिञ्चतु प्रजापतिर्धाता गर्भं दधातु ते गर्भं देहि सिनीवालि गर्भं देहि सरस्वती गर्भन्ते अश्विनौ देवा व आधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा हिरण्ययी अरणीयं निर्मन्थतो अश्विना तं ते गर्भं हवामहे दशमे मासि सूतवे विष्णुर्योनिं कल्पयतु त्वष्टारूपाणि विंशतु आसिञ्चतु प्रजापतिर्धाता गर्भं दधातु ते गर्भं देहि सिनीवालि गर्भं देहि सरस्वती गर्भन्ते अश्विनौ देवा व आधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा हिरण्ययी अरणीयं निर्मन्थतो अश्विना तं ते गर्भं हवामहे दशमे मासि सूतवे विष्णुर्योनिं कल्पयतु त्वष्टारूपाणि विंशतु आसिञ्चतु प्रजापतिर्धाता गर्भं दधातु ते गर्भं देहि सिनीवालि गर्भं देहि सरस्वती गर्भन्ते अश्विनौ देवा व आधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा हिरण्ययी अरणीयं निर्मन्थतो अश्विना तं ते गर्भं हवामहे दशमे मासि सूतवे विष्णवे प्रभविष्णवे नमो 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 नमः महालक्ष्म्यै महालक्ष्म्यै नमो 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 नमः नारायणाय विद्महे वासुदेवाय धीमहि तन्नो विष्णुः प्रचोदयात् महालक्ष्म्यै च विद्महे विष्णुपत्न्यै च धीमहि तन्नो लक्ष्मीः प्रचोदयात् शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः विष्णुर्योनिं कल्पयतु त्वष्टारूपाणि विंशतु आसिञ्चतु प्रजापतिर्धाता गर्भं दधातु ते गर्भं देहि सिनीवालि गर्भं देहि सरस्वती गर्भन्ते अश्विनौ देवा व आधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा हिरण्ययी अश्विना तं ते गर्भं हवामहे तस्मै मासि सूतवे विष्णोर्योनिं कल्पयतु त्वष्टा रूपाणि विंशतु आसिञ्चतु प्रजापतिर्धाता गर्भं दधातु ते गर्भं धेहि सिनीवालि गर्भं धेहि सरस्वती गर्भं ते अश्विनौ देवाव आधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा हिरण्ययी अरणीयं निर्मन्थतो अश्विना तं ते गर्भं हवामहे तस्मै मासि सूतवे विष्णोर्योनिं कल्पयतु त्वष्टा रूपाणि विंशतु आसिञ्चतु प्रजापतिर्धाता गर्भं दधातु ते गर्भं धेहि सिनीवालि गर्भं धेहि सरस्वती गर्भं ते अश्विनौ देवाव आधत्तां पुष्करस्रजा हिरण्ययी अरणीयं निर्मन्थतो अश्विना तं ते गर्भं हवामहे तस्मै मासि सूतवे विष्णवे प्रभविष्णवे नमो 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 नमः महालक्ष्म्यै महालक्ष्म्यै नमो 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 नमः नारायणाय विद्महे वासुदेवाय धीमहि तन्नो विष्णुः प्रचोदयात् महालक्ष्म्यै च विद्महे विष्णुपत्न्यै च धीमहि तन्नो लक्ष्मीः प्रचोदयात् शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः
Good evening and welcome to a special edition of Planet Waves TV here on the inauguration eve, the eve of Trump 2.0 era, and really quite a bit more than that. The political situation is just one tiny facet of a kind of initiation process that we are all going to go through as one planet, as one people in the United States, as one country, and as we know, there are a great many other parts of the world that are directly influenced by what happens here in the United States and by the decisions that our leaders make and by what we as as a society allow to happen. So welcome. We have people from all over the world joining us on our three platforms. We're broadcasting over Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube. We'll be making this whole production available probably on Odyssey, since I reckon we'll get into some subject matter that would get us another YouTube strike. I want to start with just a brief statement of the Planet Waves mission. Since some of you are new to Planet Waves and some of you are old timers, we got seeing a diversity of people, and I know there have been people who have been on board with Planet Waves for 20, 25 years. We'll be approaching our 30th anniversary as a project which began in print in May of 1995. And though I do astrology at Planet Waves, and I do a lot of news coverage, and I do a lot of discussing of sexual subject matter and relational subject matter and technical issues, and my long study of the digital environment. All of those things are facets of something that is a little bit more difficult to define. You can't really say exactly what it is, but I can try to describe it. And that is that apart from all these elements of what we do, there's really behind Planet Waves and is me. And the mission of Planet Waves, the assignment that I'm on, is a spiritual assignment. It is not really topical, but I handle the topics that come up because that's the gestalt of the world. That is where we live. That is where we are. That is the planet that we are on. And as part of the spiritual mission, I take an all-encompassing view of what our lives are about. And unlike many things in the past that have had or asserted that they have a spiritual mission, I do not exclude the political. I do not exclude the technological. I do not exclude topics of sexuality and the way that influences our relationships. Rather, I take the approach, you might, you can give it whatever name you want. I call it Planet Waves, of allowing all of that into the conversation and not turning my back on anything happening on the planet, not turning my back on any point of view. And even when we encounter pure propaganda, making sure that I do my part to deconstruct that. And it is all part of an approach to reaching to you. I was going to say publishing, but we're doing a lot more. Anything that I do is just one more way that I make contact with you. It might be, it might be in this format in video. It might be my personal favorite format, which is Planet Waves FM, which is to work in an audio environment. I sit right at this desk and do that. I'm sure you can imagine that. I do a lot of things in writing. I have a number of different genres. As far as I'm concerned, it's all the same thing, whether I'm doing an investigative report or really anything. The horoscope has a little bit of a special distinction because that's the one place that I filter out a lot of all of the externals, except the environment itself and its influence and its impact. And then I do a lot of reading charts like this, and I really bring it down to the most personal level. But if you have probably noticed that all that I do, I strive to make it personal. I strive to include you and how you might feel and the way you are feeling in the work that I'm doing. And by that, I mean to say that the world is a very edgy and stressed out place right now. There is really nary a comfort zone, and I even reckon that even the big billionaires and those who are very excited about what they've accomplished in terms of getting Trump and Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and J.D. Vance into the White House. Everyone is on edge, and no one really knows exactly what the future holds. And whenever I am presenting something, whether it's in the personal kind of counseling genre or the news genre, I do my best to keep in mind and keep in heart and soul the state of being of you, the recipient of you, the person on the other end. And I know that I am speaking to a vast diversity of people who are in every imaginable kind of state of mind. And this really is the challenge, particularly the challenge of the horoscope, because the horoscope strives to address you personally, but I don't really know, what's going on with you, and so I have to leave a lot of room open for the possibilities and make sure that that a range of let's say emotional bandwidths are available. And by saying all this, I mean to say that I want to address the fear first. This is something I learned in Hakomi therapy training, which is a very laid back, mellow, kind of a distant cousin of Gestalt therapy. And there are a lot of people who are really worried, and you may be one of them. There are, just to give a couple of examples, there are hundreds of thousands of people who are in the United States, either without visas, without explicit permission, or who have visas that they are afraid are going to be revoked, and they may be sent back to some very fraught parts of the world. They are not feeling good tonight. There's a lot of anxiety, and there's a lot of sense that they look. You wouldn't want to be sitting where you're sitting right now, assuming that you have no reason to believe you shouldn't be there, and then be told no, you cannot be there. You're going to be ejected to another society, and you're going to be sent there basically with nothing, and possibly no one on the other end if your whole community is here. There are those who are on every imaginable kind of brink. There are quite a few people who are, I would say, nervous about the political situation and not knowing what's going on. I think, in terms of talking about a second Trump presidency, and this will be the last. He cannot serve another term after this. That's it. He reaches his 2-term limit, unless of course the justices on the Supreme Court make a little constitutional amendment. People on the left are very nervous. I will tell you that the New York Times, which pretends to lean left, that is really just a disguise that they are wearing. But they feel that their role is to stoke up the maximum amount of vitriol, hatred, and anxiety about a second Trump administration. It is, I keep my eyes on that paper all day. It's going on all the time. And yes, there are people who feel that that this is going to be great. There are some people who are pretty sure that this is like the savior has arrived. And I want to, caution about both of those political positions. First of all, the savior thing is extremely dangerous because the savior thing is a consequence. The whole emotional milieu around that is a consequence of the desperation that people are feeling, and this is emotional desperation and a longing for contact. Longing for community and for communication. And I realize there are people in all kinds of little bubbles where they have their friends and they're people they can invite over or onto their yacht or whatever it may be. And that's unlikely to be you. But a lot of us are feeling the isolation. I mean, I really would be feeling it if I did not have my colleagues and my community at Planet Waves, and I remember all of those and want to speak to all of those for whom this digital age has created a sense of extreme isolation in the world, where previously they had places to go and stores to stop in on and and places to visit. And then I think that many in the younger generation whose concept of sex involves something that they like a little movie they watch on the internet. There is a degree of truly concerning sexual desperation that I seem to be one of the only people willing to say something about this and to speak to it and to address it. There are a tremendous number of men in what's called the manosphere who feel completely alienated from women and are mistrusting and even hateful, and they really feel like there is nobody for them. They'll never have a partner. They'll never have a relationship, and there are a great many women who have no concept of how to talk to a man. Borrowing a line from radical feminist Adrienne Rich, all of whose books are now in storage, all of my collection of hers. And so when you get society in a place where there is such incredible alienation and such suppression of sensory experience and such suppression of sexual instinct and sexual feelings and the criminalization of expressing affection, this creates what Dr. Wilhelm Reich called the mystic longing. The mystic longing. And that is a feeling that there must be something. There must be something. It's kind of a false religious yearning. And what happens under the conditions of this false religious yearning is that a charismatic leader basically can come in and take over. And this is what we've seen happen a couple of times, and what we certainly saw it with Trump 1.0, where people really felt that a kind of savior had arrived. And I know that a lot of people on the Trump side of this, I went and visited. Some of you are familiar with my ongoing photo series from Vinny's farm stand. I've got a good friend and a guy named Vincent Neglia, and I dropped in today, and he's pretty sure that Trump is going to straighten it all out. And a lot of people are sure that Trump is going to straighten it all out. That's why I jokingly called this presentation, Can a Hillbilly and a Felon Save Us? Get us out of this mess. And whatever we are in, it is a lot bigger than politics. And most people do not understand that what we are in is really what we are under, which is a total immersion of the digital environment. This has been rising since, we're about to reach the Uranus return of the digital revolution. Uranus has an 84-year orbit. And when I was writing the book, The Awa, in the first couple of weeks of working on the awakening, I ended up at the very end of this. It ended up dawning on me, which is why I did this project, was just kind of flush through all the astrology. When does Uranus change signs? Oh, really? We're reaching the end of 7 years of Uranus and Taurus, which started in 2018. Well, that's impressive. When Uranus goes into Gemini in July, it'll be a transition that takes place over about 9 months. It'll land in Gemini to stay in the spring of 2026. When you've got a long but not so long transit like that, at least when I do, the first thing I do is I look back and get a sense of what this was about last time. Not because I think that history is an exact repeat, but I want to get a feeling of what the vibrational quality of it is about. And you land in 1942. You land right at the beginning of World War II, and unbeknownst to most people, World War II was the beginning of the computer revolution. Hitler used computers to keep track of concentration camp inmates and victims, and England used computers to be able to do mathematics very quickly to crack the Heydrich enigma, the German code, which could not have been done without computers. Or if you didn't mind it taking, I don't know how many years were estimated, 1,000 years or something, if a bunch of really smart mathematicians who were ironically called calculators, used to be a human. A calculator used to be a person. Anyway, if you look at and I include this in the Awa, in the book that comes with the Awakening, the timeline of 1942 to 1949, Uranus and Gemini, last time around, is like computers are humming along like at around 1 mile an hour. I mean, they're one stop short of getting a parking ticket. And Turing is working. He's the Brit who basically invented this thing that we're using right now. And by 1949, there are basically mainframes, and there's memory invented. In other words, programs that are held in memory, a major innovation of the computing environment. And that's it. It was like a 1 mile an hour to 60 miles an hour under Uranus in Gemini. And this describes, and we'll be talking more about this tonight when I'm joined by Jeffrey and by Daniel, that we are in the middle of something called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. There have been, according to whoever makes these things up, 3 prior industrial revolutions. But none of them were planned. This is a planned industrial revolution, which is probably not properly called industrial, but it is the takeover of known reality by the computing environment, and it's already pretty darn taken over. Computers and computing and digital technology have essentially infiltrated every single phase of our lives. We are expected to do all of our business by computer. We all, to some degree, unless you're a contractor and you go to local hardware stores to get all your stuff, we all buy our things on computers, and much of what we buy is digital equipment, and it is just a constant proliferation. Now you want a car to take you somewhere, you tap your Uber. You want a pizza, you tap your pizza app. You want Grubhub from your favorite Mexican restaurant, you tap Grubhub, and your bill digitally, and your food is dispatched digitally. And yes, somebody has to put it together, make a plate up, and put it in a bucket and send it to you. This is all digital infiltration. We conduct our relationships by digital. We all of our encounters are in some way processed through digital. Now, even if you make a phone call, it is a digital phone call. We watch TV by digital. We listen to the radio by digital. I'm looking at a very nice hand-built analog electric guitar. I'll show it to you sometime. With an analog pedal board that was assembled by a human being with hands, and an analog tube amp. But that is a relic from another era, somewhere between like 1955 and 1975. That technology dates to. And then besides that, we are all basically surrounded. I'm sitting in a room surrounded by computers. I've got a couple of digital keyboards behind me, and that is just the beginning of it. We all lived through the 2020 experience. And as I've explained many times, that was a digital, the word begins with a V, called MN 908947, and the test, which begins with a P blank R, that was a digital test. And so the V was a digital thing, and the test was a digital test. And here is here's the rub. Here's the issue, which is that only digitized people could have fallen for a digitized V. Society shut down. And so while people, I get that some people are extremely panicked over Trump coming in, and some people are are extremely optimistic. I assure you, there is nobody happier than big tech and big pharma executives and shareholders and members of the boards of directors who are about to see the biggest fourth industrial revolution a boom and a boon, and you are, if you are not careful, going to end up with central bank digital currency. And all I can say is a caution against opting in. I mean, for example, let's say you're really rich and you have $20,000 in the bank. And they say, well, if you join our digital network, we'll give you we'll double your money with more magic money. Well, that's going to bring a lot of people in. They'll do things like make it convenient. They'll try to lock you out and block you out of things. And like they did with the shot, they will slowly try to corral everyone in. And what saved us in 2020 and 2021 was a health freedom movement where there were people informing people and willing to get deplatformed a number of times and willing to lose half of their subscribers and so forth and customers and to be able to keep explaining what exactly was going on. Well, get ready because there will be many opportunities coming for us to have to stand up to what is going on. And I say this not out of any personal animosity against Donald Trump. I mean, personally, I feel like while he is repugnant in a lot of ways, he's like a colorful character on the political stage. As a journalist, I have plenty to write about. I'm not so worried about Trump. I'm worried about the men behind him and their agenda. They are younger, they are more powerful, they are far richer, and we have the first one is Elon Musk camping out at Mar-a-Lago right now. I'm sure that that Musk is in whatever presidential suite that Trump is. I don't know. I wonder where do you think Trump is tonight? Well, I don't know, but he's probably eating Chick-fil-A with Elon Musk. Everyone's going to order their beef bourguignon and whatever shrimp scampi or human baby fricassee, and Trump is probably eating a delicious Big Mac. It is Musk and the entire tech movement and Thiel and the entire hedge fund kind of investment capital movement that I'm worried about, that I am concerned about. And part of why I'm concerned is that people are in a weakened state of mind. They are in a weakened state of being. And we are weakened by the very thing that has taken over. And I will tell you that it is not easy to hold on to your humanity in this environment. It is very difficult, and it is the loss of humanity comes at us in sneaky ways through things like expectations, through things like a radically narrowing emotional bandwidth. Like humans started like with that much, which they didn't really have very much, and then our artists have a little extra, musicians have a little extra, and then it's just getting narrow and narrow, and our expectations of what how life is and what might feel good are being made ever narrower, and this weakens people. This whole electrical environment, which personally I couldn't be able to do the work that I do without. I could order myself an old IBM Selectric 2 typewriter and finish my novel, but I wouldn't be able to do the work that I do here and come to you without sitting in a room surrounded by digital equipment. And so we are all, to some extent, in this. And some people are able to keep their creative spirits alive, and most people find this environment to be extremely depleting, whether it is the EMFs that are involved, the multiple energy fields that we are sitting in. If you could see them, it would look real creepy. And how they overlay. I bet I'm in small town America. Let me just show you where I am. I'm in small town America. And I'm probably sitting in the middle of 20 Wi-Fi networks. Easily. The food we're eating, the chemicals, the plastic that we're breathing in with every breath of air, the hormones that are coming from every source, and now a topic that I will bring up soon. I've been working on this one for a while, which is what is the influence of cannabis in the midst of this whole environment, and it has a hormonal effect, and it has a way of making the internet seem really, really vivid. Those little 5-minute movies are one thing, and they're another thing when someone is taking a couple of hits of really powerful weed. Video games, gaming, digital gaming is one thing, and it's another thing on a few hits of really, really powerful weed or edible. So this whole environment, and it is the reason I am concerned about this cannabis revolution that has happened. Not long ago, people were going to jail for possession or selling cannabis, and now all along Route 32 in Ulster County, the cannabis dispensaries are opening up one after the other. And I'm concerned about the fusion of ubiquitous cannabis, people hitting their vapes all the time, and the increasing rise of the digital environment, because I think that it is it just gets people deeper into the mesh, and what it really does is it provides a substitute for creativity. Now, while talking about creativity, one of the things that is happening is that suddenly AI is everywhere. Now, it's kind of been everywhere. That elusive thing that begins with a V, MN908947, which some of you have seen me write about. Google that and my name, and you will find out all about it. MN908947, in my name, and you'll find a lot of stuff that you probably are not going to be that happy about. That is an artificial intelligence construct that was created using AI tools. That is frightening, but it is not the tools that are the frightening part. What the issue is, my profound concern is what happens in the human environment. Now let's talk about a little bit about astrology. My basically planetary metaphor, a symbol, archetype, if you will, of where the mental environment intersects with the technical environment is Eris, which has been in Aries since the mid-1920s. So we're looking at about 80 years on that, and that was. That was what led into World War II. It was the rise of radio, and then it was the rise of television, and then the rise of digital. A telephone, telegraph, electric light, all that is Eris and Pisces. Eris and Aries is the communication environment that we live in today, where, case in point, I am talking to you on a kind of a television type device. Is still very powerful, but really the entire environment is digital, and this is profoundly destabilizing of what a person is. And telephone, telegraph, electric light, and radio were destabilizing and de-individuating enough. They were difficult enough to deal with. And digital has basically put the equivalent of technological, AK-47s and AR-15s in everyone's hands. And now AI devices are going to be everywhere. And look, it's very seductive. I like those AI responses that I get when I type something into Google. And I've got a couple of friends. John Rappaport is one of them. Tom Golden is another one, who are doing a lot of experiments with these AI devices and seeing what cohesive information they can get out of them. But I maintain that this is a Trojan horse, and this is a Trojan horse means it looks like a gift, and then the army comes out of the thing and takes over your society. So while we're on astrology, I'd like to just do a quick overview of where we're going. When we get into the election discussion, and by the way, Dan Giamario is one of my guests tonight is having difficulty getting in. And let me just check with Elijah Tuttle, who's running the show behind the scenes. And as you can see, we are having the snowpocalypse here, and this is how bad it is. So I'm just gonna message Eli and see what's going on and let you see. Like, basically, this is your live view of the world about to end from 4 inches of snow. So give me half a second here, and I will start up this fantastic fertility chant again.
Vishnuryoning kalpayatu tvashtarupani pimshatu asinchatu prajapatirdhata garbhan dadhatu te Garbhandehi sinivali garbhandehi saraswati Garbhante ashvinau devava adhaktam pushkarasraja.
Okay. Hold on. Let's pause here. This one of my favorite things I ever found on the internet. And let me get back to me. I think this is right. Daniel, Eli says you've got to figure it out. Restart your client, restart your computer, check your connection. It's difficult for us to solve, but you can also email Elijah at planetwaves.net, ELIJAH at planetwaves.net, and he will help you any way that he can. And you might want to even jump on the phone on the phone with him. All right, let's go to some astrology here. This is a new feature that I am going to apply. Let's see, I've got to turn, hold on one second. As you can see, I've been revamping my video setup, getting ready to do a lot of real campy how to read a chart videos. Okay. All right. So there are many big things going on in 2025 and 2026, which are kind of like one 18-month year, basically, because the events span out into from basically the beginning of 25 into the middle of 26. Now it's all continuum and things are rolling along all the time, but for the kind of window of action that we're looking at, that is the approximate window of action. So I want to give you an idea of what this looks like, and let's give this a try. All right. So here is a chart from about a little more than an hour ago. This is from 6/24, and nothing I'm looking at requires the time, except I think it's interesting that the total solar eclipse of August 11th, 1999, shows up in what was really a random chart. And one of the things you learn as an astrologer is, if you're really doing it and you're really doing kind of the historic version of astrology, which I happen to love, is you remember where the big eclipses were, and 8/11/99 is one just happened to be in the ascendant. But as far as what's going on now, tonight, the moon is in Libra. If you can make your screen as big as possible to see this, the moon's in Libra, and the moon is coming right in on what I have been calling the family Hunger Game cluster, which is right there. That is Centaur Pholus. So that is in the mix, particularly here on the eve of this momentous night. Okay, so notice that right now Saturn is in Pisces. That's going to be that way for a while. Venus is in Pisces. That's passing through this, but there's several conjunctions going on. Venus Saturn, Venus Nessus, and then Saturn making a conjunction to Nessus quite soon. This Venus is a visitor here, and Saturn Nessus has been brewing for quite a while. Well, that's been going on since last summer. And I think that the last time this happened was in the 1940s. Let's take a look at that on my superpower aspects. Nessus conjunct Saturn. Nope, Nessus conjunct Saturn. So the last time this happened was June 9th, 1973. And that was right at the moment of, in the aftermath of the Chiron Nessus, Chiron Eris conjunction, which I'm going to get into next. So this is a big one. This is happening now. And this is about understanding consequences. Nessus is about consequences, and Saturn is about inner authority and taking responsibility for yourself. Basically, it is about the ability to hold an internal authority structure, so you do not need to be told what to do, and you don't need some big macha to come along and tell you what to do. So note that Saturn's in Pisces. So too is Neptune. That will not be for long. Now, then there is the Chiron Eris conjunction. They are not very close right now. Well, they're close. This is happening. Chiron here to the faster moving point at 19. Eris, very, very slow moving point. That is a conjunction, and that is imminent. And I will be talking about. You're going to see another look at that in a second. When we get to the inauguration chart, which is astounding, which I'll preview with this, we know that Mars is retrograde. Right, there's the retrograde. Mars is moving against the normal longitude. It's at 24 degrees and 44 minutes. Now check this out. This is an exact square. And in fact, it is so exact that when Trump is inaugurated tomorrow at 12:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Mars is at 24:24 of Cancer, retrograde. Eris is at 24:24 of Aries, retrograde. In other words, the exact, precise aspect to the arc minute. Divide the wheel into 23,000 slices. There's 12 signs, 60 degrees, 30 degrees per sign. There's 60 arc minutes per degree. This is exact to that resolution. 1/60th of 1 degree. This is This is what happens tomorrow at noon. Now, additionally, Venus is conjunct Nessus to only 2 arc minutes. So this is a very, very, very powerful chart. But let's stick with let's save that for when Giamario, who's have managed to get himself online. We have not heard from Jeffrey. Eli, have we heard from Jeffrey? All right. So then the other important thing is that we've got the sun is in newly born in Aquarius, and look at that. There's what Pluto in Aquarius looks like from the standpoint of an astrology chart, and the sun just entered Aquarius a couple of hours ago. I don't have that one handy, but you can see that its value is only 9 arc minutes. That's probably about 2-3 hours, maybe a little more. All right. So this conjunction is also happening. It is very, very Plutonian. Giamario called his he wrote a very cute memo, highly informative. Let me see if I can find it. Giamario is something of a compiler. I've noticed over the years that he has a skill for compilation, and he called it a very Plutonian inauguration. We'll get there. So the centaurs are lit. Chiron is involved. Honorary mega centaur Eris is involved. Nessus is involved. Moon is square Pholus right now. The whole family Hunger Game thing, I'm not going to write it in, but usually just you know what I'm doing. I highlight it with a red thing here. Jeffrey's on a little bit early. Hello, Jeffrey.
Hello.
Ready for Jeffrey yet? If you could just mute your camera. Okay, and so that's a couple of hours ago. Now I want to show you what's going to be happening on May 26th. By May 26th, here's what's going on. And here is the awakening aspect pattern, part 1. The awakening aspect is this. It is the conjunction of Eris and Chiron. Right there. That's Chiron. That's Eris. Note, 25, 28, 25, 28. And at the same time, Saturn has entered Aries and Neptune has entered Aries. Right? Tonight, Saturn and Neptune are in Pisces. Saturn there, Neptune there. Neptune takes something like 146 years to go around. Saturn takes 29 years to go around. They're both changing signs at the same time. And we're going to be experiencing this year an extended double conjunction of Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron, Eris. That's pretty wild. This all happens right around the day of the Gemini new moon. You can see that because the sun and the moon have the same value. It is not that hard to read these charts, but you have to be patient. And hang out with me and you'll learn. Next, the awakening aspect, part 2. Not sure quite what is distinct here, except that this is the actual conjunction of Chiron and Eris. The conjunctions often happen 3 times. And the reason they happen 3 times is that you have a planet there, and you have the sun here, and you have the planet's going real slow, and the Earth is kind of going round and round, round and round. And that changes the parallax view of the distant planet. The real, to add in some quotes, but the heliocentric alignment of Chiron and Eris takes place in October. The Awakening, part 2. We have Neptune sitting on the Aries point. We have Saturn back in Aries. Neptune is going to retrograde back into Pisces, and we'll get a bit of completion on certain things. And notice Uranus is in Gemini This is the blockchain. This is computers going from a thought in Alan Turing's mind to mega corporations real quick. But now here's the big deal. This is March 19th, 2026. The sun is at the very end of Pisces. You can see that because it's got a value that's very high in Pisces, 319, March 19th. Sun's in Pisces. I got that wrong yesterday, and a musician, astrologically hip musician, corrected me. I'm like, damn. All right. And here we have the third Chiron Eris conjunction. See how this is read? 24, 59, 24, 59. That's their address. They're in the same place. They have the same number value in the same sign. That's a conjunction. Compared to having the same number value in 90 degrees apart, that's a square. Same number value is a conjunction. And along the way, we get another conjunction. I don't have the chart for that here. We don't need it, of Saturn and Neptune. So we are in an absolutely monumental time. I don't blame anyone for being nervous. I don't blame anyone for being really optimistic. And I will tell you that while I don't think that these people use astrology in quite the way that I do. Come on. Nope, video back. Sorry about this. The host has stopped it. Hold on a second. Not sure what's going on there. Hold on for 1 second. Okay, so I don't know if you can hear me. Can anyone confirm that you can hear me? Okay. Okay. Well, I don't think that the powers that be hire people like me to calculate this for them, and I think that there's a lot of things that a great many astrologers don't have the least clue about. And things like Nessus. I've been working with Nessus for nearly 25 years to get a feeling for that, and you can't readily just read about it. There's all kinds of bullshit flying about Eris. You can't readily read about that. These are rather esoteric aspects that I am describing. I do think that the powers that be sense big moments, and they act opportunistically in big moments. And we are in a big moment right now. We are in a moment so big that it's pretty incomprehensible. We are in a moment that I think really dwarfs the 1960s, and that was there were a series of events in the 60s that were big, and then the most recent Chiron Eris conjunction was in 1971 and 1972, sparking a kind of a second 60s in the early 1970s. Very different energy. The energy shifts from Virgo, mellow, feminine, sensitive, mutable Virgo in the early to mid 60s, and then it shifts into Chiron Eris conjunction in Aries in the late 60s and the early 70s. And that is when that's when things got fiery. They really fiery. There was no more ordinary down-home civil rights movement. It was something completely different. So just to restate. Nope. Hold on a second. I've got 3 cameras running. This is the thing to watch for. how do we do this? This is this one. Look at this. This is a grand conjunction. Basically, this point has no mass. This point has no mass. This point has no mass. This has no mass. And this has no mass. And fortunately, there's Jupiter out here, which has a lot of mass. And Uranus, that has a lot of mass. And Pluto has a little. But the rest of the solar system, of all the planets in this commercial astrology program, IO edition, look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 points. And for all practical purposes, Uranus is here as well. It's skewing out to the same side. So what I'm getting at is, and kind of imprint this in your mind, and I'll attach it to the Substack page. We'll do a blow up of this. This is, let me see if I can find myself again. This is where we're headed, and so this is the tsunami that is coming, and where we're at now is like the water has gone out a mile. That's what happens right before a tsunami, and then people wander out onto the beach, and they think, "Oh, this is interesting. Look, some clams to eat," and then boom, that chart, March 19th, 2026. Right on the eve of the spring equinox, the 2025 equinox coming right up. Got to pay attention to this. All right. So far so good. I am not watching comments. We'll get to comments and questions. Well, let me just take a quick look at what's going on. IBM computers. Yes, Eric is wearing a tie. Have a wardrobe. Someone saying they never thought they could be addicted to cannabis. I don't. I'm not sure that cannabis is an addiction. You know, there's all kinds of people who would say it's an addiction. I would say that cannabis creates a dependency, and it opens up an alternative reality. And the problem that I will, and I'm going to be, Roman Chapraval will be a guest on the program again. He's part of the power couple with Bodana, who's very interested in the hormonal impact of the endocrine impact of the digital environment. The issue with cannabis I've known about, and certainly had my fun with, but now have grown very concerned about, is that it is sexually starved female plant resin. Basically, the female plants are completely starved of any male involvement and sensimilla. That means no seeds. And then the female plants make more and more and more and more of the stuff that gets you high. That's the resin, and that's where the various versions of THC are contained. And it's hormonally active. It is, consuming cannabis products is estrogenic. And the problem is that the world is very, very, very estrogenic right now. All of these hormone disruptors that we are experiencing, the plasticizers, the PCBs, the dioxins, and many other things are endocrine disruptors, and that is the word now that's more encompassing. But they used to be called estrogenic, xenoestrogenic compounds, external estrogen. All right, we'll come back to more questions right now, and you know, I would say this: we are not in a very hopeful time, but we are in a time where how we treat each other matters more than ever. We are in a time where bringing our creativity to our lives matters more than ever, and I mean that in the physical environment, and I mean equally and perhaps more so in the digital environment. And by creativity, I mean bringing your sense of daring and your sense of adventure and your love and your empathy and your compassion, and making a point to be extra specially gentle and kind and caring in the digital environment. It's a complete contradiction of what the digital environment is, because it so always seems to be loaded with all of this hostility. And if you find yourself or someone else in attack mode, that is the first symptom of disembodiment. Because when a person doesn't know who they are, they will use aggression to find out. And so there are much better ways to self-actualize. You are not self-actualizing by attacking people. It's just not how it works. But you might think you are. And there are various factions who just love to come after people. And I think that we need to de-energize them, and we need to do whatever we might need to do to stand up to them, and to support the people who are being come after, often completely unrighteously. And I think more than anything, don't participate in sex scandals, because that is the big allure. And in the state of aggressive disembodiment and hormone chaos, sex scandals are appealing. And so that includes being horrified by any claim whatsoever. And I know people are all souped up on child trafficking. I'm sorry, there's really nothing you can do about it, except if you've got somebody in your environment physically who you can help, then you help them. But besides that, to get souped up on the issue is to fall into a trap. Another Trojan horse that seems to feel good. I will soon get into a couple of issues. I want to just before we bring Daniel and Jeffrey in, I want to just show you something, which is that there have been a couple of times. Nope, that is Kingston, New York. There have been a couple of times where there has been a lot of Aries, and that includes a number of events in the 1920s. Betty Dodson's chart has a big blast of it. The invocation of radio, the beginning of the Great Depression, all the lead up, the blend from World War I to World War II. But I think that the mother of all Aries charts is the Seneca Falls Convention, which is said to be the birthplace of feminism. And a document called the Declaration of Sentiments was issued, and that was a declaration of war. And that was at the Uranus-Pluto conjunction in Aries. And in the 60s, the thing that felt so good about the early 1960s, back from like 1963-ish out to about 1967, 68-ish, was there was a Uranus-Pluto conjunction in Virgo opposite Chiron in Pisces. That's I call Chiron in Pisces the Beatles' contribution, and many other. That was the beautiful music without which a lot of people probably would have voluntarily OD'd, and enough did anyway. So big fiery thing. And of course, the Civil War happens not that long after. You might think, well, 1863 or whatever, 1848. No, that was one thing led to another. And so therefore, you might imagine we've got the war between the states and the war between the sexes, both of which are still raging, to have this much Aries. Fight, right? Well, that war, man, going to be a lot of declarations of war issued, and a lot of awakenings. And I think a reckoning, and behind it is all this kind of Pisces, take it as you will. Is it creative? Is it dreamy? Is it delusional? But that's the mix, and that is the Aries. And so I am suggesting that, as said, if I got that right, good. Somebody mailed me that "Make Love Not War" thing. I forgot who it was. If you mailed me that, please, you might email every day, but send me a note because I'm very happy to have that. All right, so now we've got a couple of mavens to bring on board. His Planet Waves historian Jeffrey Strahl and his contemporary Daniel Giamario, the leader of an astrological mystery school, the Turning of the Ages, and I think one of the more thoughtful and preeminent astrologers of our time. Before I knew Daniel, I had a document of his. Eli, you can bring the guys in, of a list of, like, I do key life transits work, and I found this list of key life transits that was like 50 of them. And the thing was that they didn't say who it was. It was printed. I found it in my storage unit, and then like I saw a similar document, or it occurred to me it might be Daniel Giamario above, in kind of purple paisley psychedelic tie-dye, and Jeffrey Strahl in his study. Guys, welcome. Thank you for joining me here on the eve of this precipitous moment in global history. Can I hear you? Can you say hello so I can make sure we've got sound?
Am I coming through?
Hey,
Okay?
gang.
I got you both.
Okay, very good. Good to be here
Right.
with you.
So, first question for my panel of what was I gonna call this? Two. Oh God, I'll think of. I had a very funny way to describe the three of us. So, two wizards and a warlock, and was going to leave it up to to people to guess who the wizards were and who the warlock is. But it's there's an inside Grateful Dead joke there. So I guess first, Jeffrey, where are we at in the kind of like the trajectory of the history of American society right now on the eve of this frightening moment that I'm not that worried about, but anyway.
Specifically American society, because I think that we're in a global society in a certain moment, which
Well,
America,
sure. I mean, the global village
Yeah.
has expanded out. But as you wish. I mean, to something relatable. Here we are on the inauguration eve of Donald Trump 2.0.
well, yeah, I think we're on the eve of the inauguration of 4IR and implementation on steroids with all the people that he's bringing on board.
Right. So he's bringing on board this technological revolution that we're calling
The tech
they're
bros.
calling the Fourth Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
The whole team basically is going to take over the executive branch.
Yep. Besides the people you mentioned, I saw a very interesting video yesterday of Mark Andreessen. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Hoover Institution.
Excuse me?
Hoover Institution video that you sent around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that. So please sum that up.
Okay, so he's he was originally the developer of Netscape, the internet browser, and then years later founded this company, Andreessen and Horowitz, which is basically social impact investing and the like. That's the big company in that field, and all sorts of social ventures, along with his wife Laura Arriaga Andreessen, who is from Stanford University and one called the Queen of Social Impact Investing.
So what is social impact investing?
What is it?
Yeah.
It's an investing, should we say, instrument which enables people, wealthy people, to bet on individuals who are involved in social programs. In this way, that these social programs are going to be financed instead of by
What is
government.
a social program?
Such as appealing to people who are on unemployment, working with people who are on unemployment to get them re-educated and reskilled with a job, or through education, helping people go through certain accreditation process
So
so they
why
can
is this
improve
bad?
it.
Because it's going to be a training program for technologists?
It's going to be a training program for technologists, and you basically have to submit to complete monitor surveillance 24/7 to see how you're doing with it in order for people to be
You're
able to
saying that
bet
it's
on
a
you.
trap, that people are lured into, they're lured into some benefit.
Yep.
I mean, in my community, you can get a free phone or a free iPad if you're poor.
Yeah, and you could probably do better with all these particular offers. All we want is your soul.
Ha. Okay, so
So,
um, I thought that guy was a fabulous salesman for bullshit. Alan Friedman seems to be making a, people seem to be talking about him again as if he was someone who knew anything. Ayn Rand. I don't think these people really knew very much or had any theory other than kind of the tyranny that we're seeing now.
well, yeah. Well, I'm saying there's Peter Thiel. I mean, he knew where to get what to start. PayPal and Facebook. He was the original big investor in Facebook rather than Zuck. And
Zuckerberg didn't have anything.
it's what?
Well, Zuckerberg didn't really have anything.
No, Peter Thiel was the big investor. And then Thiel developed Palantir, which is collecting information on people,
Yeah, Palantir.
basically intelligence. And they work, Palantir works with militaries and with governments as far as collection
Oh,
of,
so Teal is Palantir.
yeah.
So Palantir is a reference in the Lord of the Rings to sacred objects brought from Numenor,
Hmm.
which were kind of these orbs. You could look into the orb and you could see anywhere.
Palantir has all sorts of fingers and things. The outgoing, as of tomorrow, the ex-director of national security, Avril Haines, was a top executive in Palantir. And Palantir also has Republican fingers as well. And
Right.
Thiel is, of course, the sponsor of what's the JD Vance. I'm going to have to get used to calling a president or vice president by initials. I've never done that before.
Yeah, he's
JD
got a name,
Vance.
and it's not J.D. Vance. But this is, as we learned, I think, during the Trilateral Commission adventure, which seems like so far in the past, when we were piecing together with Mike Bryant, the Carter and the Trilateral Commission, this is not about political parties. The political parties are just Coke or Pepsi branding. It's still a bottle of sugar water and caramel coloring and caffeine.
Except in this case, some entity owned both. These are two different brands of the same company.
Right, right. All right. Daniel, welcome.
Hi, yes.
Hello.
Good to see you. Yes,
And you're in the Philippines, is that correct?
yes, right.
And and Jeffrey is in Oakland, is that correct?
Berkeley,
Berkeley. All right. Well, East Bay.
next door.
I'm
Almost.
about 25 miles outside of Metro Manila up in the hills.
Got it. All right. So, from an astrological standpoint, Daniel, where would you say we are? We've got these major conjunctions coming up. Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron, Eris. That's immense to have these two things happening
Yes.
basically concurrently and in the same sign. What does that tell you?
Well, what I have to say is that every presentation that I've been doing in the last few years, I always even take it to a higher context than that. All of these things you're mentioning, I think, are incredibly important, but they're happening within really the main feature of our school's research. My research has been, which only recently, through the work of a book called Yuga Shift, we're able to see how the precessional cycle and the yuga cycles match. And so basically everything I ever work with is based on this idea of where we are in the greater cycles, which I could say it as the end and the beginning of a 26,000-year cycle, but also coming up to the very end of the Kali Yuga, which has been designated and determined as the March equinox coming up in 2025.
How is that? I thought the Kali Yuga was really, really long, but now I've read subsequently it's a couple hundred years, like 209 years or something.
No, actually, there's been this man that I just recently had a long interview with, and who I've been following his work since 2012. Abhibu Dev Mishra has really put together all the sources on it, and has been able to see that what they were understanding in the late 1800s was really not the full story. And so he's kind of put together 5 or 6 different cultures' view on this whole thing. And it matches, it's the thing I kind of knew back in the 80s, that the 1980s, that these cycles match. And they do. And in fact, the thing that was missing was how the so-called younger Dryas corresponded to the shifting points in the yugas. And we're coming up to another one of these 1,200-year points starting at the end of March, moving into a conflagration time period. But it matches perfectly with the 1,200-year time period in the geological timeline. So I look at it from that perspective, but it also goes into other things. I think you're somewhat familiar with the work I've done on when the Aquarian Age. The whole deal about the Aquarian Age. That's also been a very major part of our school's work.
Well, what's your take on it? I've been calling where we are at the Aquarian era, kind of an anteroom of but there's also evidence the Aquarian Age is well underway. Well underway.
And the work of our school is to deciphering where the actual exact midpoint of a great turning would be, like a whole seasonal shift, which when you divide a 26,000-year cycle into 4 seasons, then you have this point where the solstice is aligned exactly with the galactic equator and the plane of the solar system. That was 1998. So what we do in our school is we look at 36 years on either side of that as being the great turning. Why 36 on either side? Because 1 degree, 72 years, is 1/360th of 360th of a precessional cycle. And back in Steiner's time, and back 100 years ago, it was considered the archetypal lifespan of a human being was 72 years. I think it's longer than that now. I think it's 3 Saturn returns as the archetypal length. But nevertheless, you can designate the time period 1962 to 2034 as the great turning. And even the fact that the North Node is at 0 Aries, that's actually the extreme point of the lunar standstill, which is basically the 4 time periods in 72 years when the moon is at its most extreme point out of bounds. The inauguration is not happening on out of bounds moon, but there's certainly plenty of other things happening then. So when I'm looking at it from a larger perspective, then these other things that are kind of building up off the charts, just remarkable. I'm not sure if you've researched this, but the astrologer Rick Levine has determined that there hasn't been another time he found that one of the 4 outer planets ingress into different signs in the same year. But that's happening within this larger context.
You mean we've got sign change of Pluto,
Saturn, Jupiter, Jupiter, Neptune, and what am I missing? 4
Uranus.
Yeah, Uranus. Yeah, so 4 of them.
Pluto, very close on the heels of Pluto and Sedna.
Right.
I mean, we experienced something like this in the run up to 2012, but the planets all changed signs, stretched out over like an 8 or 10 year period.
Right.
Nothing
So
like this.
the other thing I've woven into this, since you asked the question about what, and I'm bringing up the kind of the larger context, it's the whole 4th turning thing relative to European and U.S. history. And one of the other things that I was unpacking is how the current Pluto transit, and I place a lot of attention on Pluto in the signs and aspects, is that at the beginning of World War II, Pluto was exactly opposite Pluto. I mean, that was a very interesting early Leo,
Which
and
Pluto? Pluto is opposite which Pluto?
its natal position.
Ah, its natal position from the
Yeah,
discovery.
Pluto opposite Pluto.
Right.
In other words, zero Aquarius, zero Leo. So basically, that was the time period when Pluto was entering Leo, opposite where Pluto is now entering into Aquarius, which I think corresponds perfectly with the previous fourth turning. And I think you're familiar with the fourth turning material. It's basically non-astrological, but it really corresponds beautifully to the outer planet transits to the U.S. chart and to European history. It's quite a remarkable additional cross-check to seeing where the greater planetary cycles are, which I call the great turning of the ages. You know,
That's Strauss and Howe, right? Fourth turning is Strauss and Howe
Mhm.
generation theory.
Right.
Fourth turning. And there's a
And
lot of 7 year, they're into 7 year cycles on that. They're big on the Uranus through the signs, or at least I knew someone who's astrologically literate who was very much into the Strauss and Howe material.
mhm.
And he said, from our standpoint, you got to check 7 years.
That's not in their material.
No, no.
Those are people who've piggybacked on top of it. I actually have a disagreement with only one of them is still alive. I mean, to me, the real genius of that work is not the guy who's alive now. Um, uh, uh, um, uh, Strauss is the one who passed away, and I think it was his genius to put that all together. I don't agree with that. To me, Howe's opinion is that the current fourth turning started in 2008. I believe it started with the 9/11 event. And so that brings the ending of the fourth turning to be between 2025 and 2030. And it really matches up tremendously with the, you know, the Great Reset. Or what are they? I think they came up with a different name for it. I can't remember. I think probably Jeff knows what I'm talking
4IR, Great Reset,
about. They came up with a different name
end of
for it.
2030. They're always changing the name around, so we don't know what they're talking about.
Yes, but it fits into this whole thing of the beginning of a 26,000 year cycle, the end of Kali Yuga, which according to those views is the final descent into materialism. Nothing is more extreme in the final descent of materialism into making the whole planet and creating a simulacrum of the earth in digital. You know, so
Yeah, to delegate thinking.
into a material, you know, which
Yeah,
is
silicone.
ultimate hijack, which is what happens at the end of Kali Yuga, which they wrote about 2,000 years ago, actually, that this would happen at this point.
Right.
So I mean, it is the ultimate. It can't go any more dense. So and then if you bring the Pluto material into it, Pluto to me, and I know you specialize in, and I value you bringing those, you know, the less known bodies, but I place a lot of attention on Pluto through the signs, and to me, it's whatever sign Pluto is in is calling out what the shadow of that particular sign is, and it's not the constellation, it's not the water bear, it's the sign, the air sign Aquarius, which is actually having Pluto move through. Nothing really to do with the age of Aquarius. I continually bring this up to astrologers that don't know the difference, that the movement of the spring equinox into a different constellation is an entirely different issue than putting what we believe to be the attributes of the sign of Aquarius. It's Pluto that's moving into the sign. It's really not about the water bearer,
Well,
which
that's the Aquarian era, but the thing is that the sidereal vernal point is, I think, about 300 years away from the first star in Aquarius, and then because Pisces and Aquarius overlap
they do.
by a couple
But
of 100 years, and so I don't think that's an accurate metric. You have to look at the world, and I think when you go back to 1920 and they start to encircle the planet in wires,
But the symbolism is different. That actually, when the Greeks invented the signs as we know them today, they did take some of the insights that came from the water bearer constellation, but they line up completely differently at this point. And there is still it's true, those particular constellations overlap, like where Saturn is in the sky right now with Venus is in the water, or the plasma, or the drops that are coming out of the water jar. That is not the sign. The sign is a completely different reference point. And continually people make that mistake. Age of Aquarius having something to do with the characteristics of the sign. It's not the constellation.
Well,
And
but the characteristics I think are Aquarius setting social patterns. Aquarius is the prime. I think, in my experience and many discussions, that if we take away all of the symbolism and the groovy horses dancing in Central Park, those that what Aquarius does is it crystallizes patterns. That's its thing. It frosts the earth in patterns, and Pluto is going to disrupt those patterns, and they are often social patterns.
yeah, but you can't, to me, even if you're looking at the symbolism of Aquarius, the sign, it can't fully be understood without the symbolism of Leo. Because unfortunately, what happens is the collectivism of Aquarius is canceling out the sovereignty and the individuality that comes from the Leo end of it.
Yeah, this is group dynamic, right? It's a group dynamic. It's group think, which is we witnessed with Saturn in Aquarius. It was terrifying group think.
Has always said that evolution can only happen through the individual, not through the collective. So if we leave out the sovereignty of the individual, then
Yeah, and this is why there is such a move to destroy the sovereignty of the individual
yes.
and to create situations where you're going to have all your decisions made for you. You do not, we will relieve you of the burden
Right.
of thinking for yourself, of making your own decisions, and of taking responsibility for your life. This is the lure.
And then that was the whole vision of the birth of technocracy in the early 1930s, is that there would be a small group of scientists and technocrats that would make the decisions for all of humanity, which were just now seen as being digital owned entities, not actual divine expressions of a creator.
Yeah, but we live as if the digital realm is God. I mean, it has become
Right.
effectively omniscient, omnipotent, all powerful, all knowing. It's like a new God has taken over, and it's not because it is the new God. It's because people treat it like it's the new God.
Well, there are in Silicon Valley. There is actually whole sites that have to do with welcoming in the AI God. It has actually become a religion. Where they're bowing down to the AI divinity that is ready to emerge as I think the one of the definitions of the singularity, which allegedly, I mean, if you read their documents, happens later in 2025 when AI will know the collective wisdom of 8 billion people on the planet and throughout all of history, that they will have incorporated all that human beings have ever done into AI, and that's their singularity.
You mean they're like they're like reading our web pages and including all that in all the Turning of the Ages School and 25 years of Planet Waves and all Jeffrey's Substacks and Celia Farber and Reverend Mark Edmund Jones and Dan Rudyard.
Eric, it's really kind of scary. I was recently on a summit where a young guy, he was in his 30s, and he decided to put my articles and the things for my website and to come up with a biography. And it was completely scary because it actually was accurate as far as they put together what they put together. I mean, I just blew my mind. Although other people have shared stuff like that with me, and you could see where they didn't quite get it and it was off. But this one, I mean, it was a really well-written biography. They just took it from about 5 articles and from what they found on my website.
Jeffrey, what do you have to say about this?
I think it's significant that the incoming administration will, for the first time, have an AI czar. Well,
Mhm.
quote unquote czar.
What role is this going to be?
He's gonna be czar of AI and crypto.
Mhm.
Basically, the presidential special. Well, I don't know if there's a specific government title for that, but there have been czars before in previous administrations,
What's
and
his
this
name?
will be for the first time as a czar for AI and crypto. And his name is David Sachs.
Yeah, thank
He's
you. Yeah, yeah. I was trying to think of, yeah, I've
yeah,
researched him also. Thank you for bringing him up.
Who
yeah.
is this? David Sachs, you said?
David Sachs.
And who's that?
He's the head of Kraft Investments, which is a big investment company, but he's also involved in AI. He's big in the AI circles. If you type his name is David Oliver Sachs. How is that for pretentiousness? And yeah,
Well,
and
Reference to Oliver
previous,
Sacks, the neurologist, and
yeah,
the previous czar in the Biden administration was Eric Schmidt.
right. It was in
President's
the
Council of Advisors on Science and Technology.
there was this yeah, but he was also involved in AI. For the first time, there's going to be one that's involved in crypto. Eric Schmidt was the czar for AI, right?
For under Biden's
Yeah,
administration, right? And he's both Thiel and Eric Schmidt are on the board of directors of the Bilderberger Group.
yeah.
One of them
Yeah,
is one
yeah.
of them calls himself a Democrat, the other calls himself a Republican, and
A libertarian
it-
Republican.
well, yeah, but he's supported the Republicans. That's what
Sure.
a fake libertarian that character is, but it just supports everything you were saying before. That it's basically two heads of the snake. You know, I mean, basically they're controlled by the same by the same group of technocrats.
So he was involved in Facebook, Uber, SpaceX, Palantir, and Airbnb.
Yeah.
Hmm.
He was an early investor in those organizations. So, I mean, it used to be that fascism was the far right ideology, immersion of corporate and political interests, and we now seem to be in. It's hard to call this left or right, but it's certainly not a free society that we are, living in right now. It seems free enough in a certain way, but it wasn't very free in 2020 and 2021.
It's going to depend more on nudges than on actual blatant rules of behavior like enforced on the street. But it's going to be people are going to be nudged into specific ways of behavior because otherwise, doing otherwise will make things, shall we say, inconvenient,
Yes.
increasingly inconvenient.
Right. And this is why I'm suggesting that we avoid the opt-ins, for one thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Where they double, they'll do something like you have $20,000 and they'll offer you you'll double your money if you convert it to digital dollars.
Yeah. Well, digital dollars are going to be one aspect. I actually think I agree with the guy named Ian Davis who writes a bunch on the web about such matters. So yeah, Daniel
Really
knows
good.
him. Who talked about how digital dollars will be like the main wrap, but there will be quote unquote alternatives in the form of cryptos and community currencies, which basically end up requiring you to be on blockchain and hence part of this wider operation. Under the guise that you have choice and you're doing things, you're doing this specific thing because that's what you chose. When basically it was like, here's your menu and choose one of these five or else you're not going to get out.
Jeffrey, I have a question are you familiar with the book Hijacking Bitcoin that came out just recently?
No.
It's really, really good, describing what the plan has been all along with Bitcoin, incorporating it into the digital money, and how about 7 years ago, the original Bitcoin dream was hijacked by these few people it's quite a stunning expose, actually.
Are you familiar with there was a web page about Silicon Icarus, which talked a whole lot
No,
about,
no, no, I don't
yeah.
know that one. Yeah, yeah.
And there was a
No,
guy there. I saved a bunch of his work via archive because it got wiped out when that site went blank. But
mhm,
he was a developer of crypto,
mhm.
and he wrote about how the crypto itself is a scam intended
Yeah.
to hook you into the
Well, the guy
global
that
computer.
wrote Hijacking Bitcoin was one of the early idealists in the original idea that what's his name, Toshi, or the guy who may or may not even exist.
Satoshi, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, right. And that how that a few years later shifted into something completely different. There was a certain idealism about it, kind of like the same way there was a original idealists in Silicon Valley, like Jaron Lenoir, who talked about how they really believed that it would be something that you would subscribe to and you'd be paid for your data. They actually believed that's what they were designing. This is a great couple of books by him. You Are Not a Gadget and Who Owns the Future, which was the hijacking of the original internet. That some of these idealists had no idea that it was going to happen like the way it did.
What's the book again?
To two books. One is called Who Owns the Future, and the other is called You Are Not a Gadget, by
Hmm.
Jaron Lenoir, Lanois.
Okay, that's
They're incredibly useful books to see what has actually happened that nobody even questions anymore. Why do not sovereign individuals at least get something for the fact that all their data is being hijacked? And people just go along with it. And that wasn't the original idea, according to these original hippie idealists in Silicon Valley, that all of a sudden, that they realized the whole thing was a scam and it got taken over.
Are you familiar with The Surveillance Valley? A book by Yasha Levin. It talked
No,
about
no,
he
no.
started off with how the whole thing started in the 1940s and
Mhm.
developed eventually right through this. There's
WWW, Worldwide Wiretap.
Okay,
That's
so if
there,
you have wealth, what do you do with it now?
social impact investing is probably
No, I
going to
don't
be
mean
the
wealth. I mean,
big.
if you have like $50,000 or $10,000, you just keep it in dollar bills in your an old pair of boots, or do you keep it in the bank, or what do you do?
Short instruments. That's what investment funds do. When they say we're going cash, they mean they have instruments which can easily be converted to cash.
You mean like CDs?
I suppose, yeah, certain type of CD accounts.
just having hard usable assets. Here in the Philippines, it's still possible to buy large amounts of high-end copper wire at a really good price. And that's one of the metals that it's on the list of in total scarcity. I mean, so that's one thing that we're thinking about over here. And then basically doing whatever you can to have unalienable property. Which apparently in some states you can still own by paying with silver or gold. And there are more states that are going in that direction. Because
Mm.
many people are waking up to the fact that if you think you own something, when you realize that you really don't. That if you don't pay your property taxes, and plus all the people based on these fires and floods, discovering how easy it is for the government to do eminent domain. They can just make up any kind of excuse. We're going to build a highway through here, or we need I'm sure that's one of the things that's so out there right now regarding these different fire attacks and flood attacks and ice attacks and everything else, which is to relieve people of their property. And as far as cash goes, these big firms have unbelievable amounts of cash, and they're just ready to go in and offer, well, you have a $5 million property. Well, you're going to lose it in 2 weeks, but here we'll give you 75,000. Take it or leave it. They're doing that all over the place right now.
There is something about the incoming administration. Another feature is the widening of the use of 4IR, in that, well, RFK Jr., provided he gets approved, will be implementing 4IR health system. And the slogan for that is going to be, what is it? Precision medicine. The aim is going to be a program called Precision Medicine, where basically every individual will have a particular health regimen just designed for them, based upon their entire personality and their lifestyle and everything.
They'll do the avatar that has already been created for them by the mining of all their data.
Education is going to have what's called personalized education, which will include free choice.
They'll tell you what you need to know.
Yeah.
And then they're going to make you learn it.
Right. And you're going to like it.
They're going to create it into a thing you snort it up or you shoot it into your arm, and then you know it.
And Linda McMahon is going to be in charge of that.
Right.
I mean,
Who's
World
that?
Wrestling.
Who is she?
Worldwide Wrestling, the entertainment.
Right. Oh, I read about this.
Right.
The idea with the education is going to be funding which follows the student rather than the brick and mortar school. In other words, funding will be provided to individuals and they can take it anywhere they want, provided they satisfy certain criteria, which will mean you can do anything you want as long as you do this, as long as you follow these particular patterns. And this will be sold as free choice to parents who are tired of the public schools, or even tired of the charter schools, or perhaps this way they can support certain charter schools that fulfill their requirements better, and incentivize everybody, nudge everybody into a particular pattern of education. And call it personalized education when it's really massification via digital means. Yeah.
But they're working on the brain implants, right? I mean,
first they're going to be the body implants, so you can just be traced in terms of what you're doing.
They don't even need at this point. They don't even need to implant anyone, because there's a phenomenal amount of nanotechnology that's already in the air. So that in some respects, the whole Elon thing about the brain chip, I mean, that's so 1990. I mean, it's the ability to put the self-assembling nano stuff in people's bodies. I just saw the other day that Gates is getting approved. There's a cream where it's a beauty cream that has vaccine in it.
Well, and there's also the Band-Aid that has the barbs, and you put the you put the tape on your wrist and you rip it out, and then the barbs stay in.
Right. They have a full spectrum. They're really high intelligent lizards.
Okay, but here's the thing. So in 2020 and 2021, they convinced people that there was a pandemic, And then they convinced them that a vaccine would save them from that disease. And a huge number of people, like 2/3 of Americans, went along.
Indeed.
And a good few went along because they were told they were going to get fired if they didn't.
Mhm.
And they liked their job. They wanted their job. But a great many who did not have that requirement also went along. And so here's where the refuse and resist element is very important.
I agree.
To make decisions one at a time to preserve your humanity and to live and be human along the way, right? It's not just about making these decisions to not let them infiltrate your body. It also includes what you do with your body the rest of the time, and what you eat and the choices that you make, and you know, how loving you are and all of that stuff. But what, you know, I am afraid that this is a very pessimistic outlook for people. And I'm concerned that the enhancement effect of this very powerful cannabis that is now sweeping across the land has a way of making the digital very, very appealing.
I wanted to add something on that. I really love the fact that you brought that up. I just have a personal story about this. One of the members of our school was this guy who had a big estate, farm, a community outside of Ukiah, California, and one of the many plants he grew was marijuana combined with other things, and he made a lot of money from that. And right before 2020, he had this thing started happening where some Republican mafia types showed up and said, if we'll let you stay in business, but only you have to make this amount of payment every month. And that's when he knew what was really happening, and he decided to before 2020 to sell, and now he has his own place down in Costa Rica. But this whole infiltration of all of it. Another member of my school was in prison for a year and a half because she had been a mule taking marijuana across the country, you know, in the I guess the 1970s or something like that.
A year and a half is not very long.
And it's well, she was low on the totem pole when they finally busted the group. But my point is that clearly what had been possibly of value about marijuana, say in the 60s or the early 70s, is no longer the case. And if you look at the history of marijuana, most cultures that were run by oligarchs and by kings and by despotic rulers loved their population smoking dope every day, because it basically kept them in a trance, and they were not going to do anything as long as they could have something to eat and some entertainment. So this whole thing shifted, and I'm also, like you, very concerned about how easy it is for people just to be smoking all day and then just being dazzled. I had never heard this about, but it makes total sense that basically it enhances the digital environment.
It makes it seem more real. It makes it seem more real and more appealing, and it kind of adds dimensionality. It adds a kind of a 4D depth to it. You know, it enhances the astral level of the experience. Does anyone remember the old book Cyberia? Cyberia. I have to look that one up again. It was from the 1990s, and it kind of by Douglas Rushkoff, 1994, and it was kind of an early exposition of the digital environment. And there is some reference in there. I mean, it's very Burning Man, right? I mean, Burning Man, Larry Harvey said it the best, and I have this in my 1999 article before I had ever gone. Jesse Welch, I don't know if you're listening, but that the Burning Man is an analog of the internet. That is what he said. That Burning Man is an analog. You take the internet and you put it on the ground, and all the camps are like websites, and you're walking around in the internet. And then you can go to Burning Man and you can get really high and it's really cool. But the beauty of it is, I mean, the beauty of Burning Man is you're in this natural environment. Once you leave the camp and you're out in the middle of the playa, you're on the playa. You're in the middle of a desert. Even the city is off on the edge, but you're standing in geologic time when you stand there. But I think that cannabis creates this very similar kind of appeal where you can kind of go in. I remember my first few times on the internet, like I would say the era of like maybe 96 to 98. And I first put Planet Waves up in 98. This felt like a spatial dimension. I felt like I was in something, that I had entered a zero gravity space where I could bilocate and become anyone. That is extremely compelling, but I don't think that it's that noticeable anymore. But cannabis makes it like that. Cannabis gives it this sense of vividness.
Well, when I was mentioning about the how it was, say, in the 60s, I was basically I was in college or in late high school. And that in America at that time period was about as black and white as you could ever imagine.
Hips and
So
squares and conservatives and liberals and
but actually no real color. It was such conformity. It was beyond imagination. So much so that having the Beatles show up with hair down across their
it was controversial.
was enough to blow people's minds. But during that time, I think this was represents a great movie that really paints it quite nicely. It was a movie called Pleasantville, where it goes into a black and white sitcom and starts bringing color into it. And that's actually what psychedelics and marijuana was doing in those years. That all changed, particularly when they started injecting the counterculture with
cocaine.
heroin and speed and
Cocaine, yeah.
and cocaine. Yeah, I mean
Now,
that's
speaking of Pleasantville, I highly recommend watching this because this we are on the same page on my masturbation theory. Mom's awakening from black and white to color is she masturbates, and when she has an orgasm, the tree outside the house bursts into
comes
flames.
into color.
This is like there's not a lot of masturbation activists left, but this was like a vindication of my whole theory, and I think I'll continue to develop this theory. But what the internet has done is create a lot of solitary sex, but the solitary sex is through the digital.
Through the digital, yeah.
It's through the digital, and so you can go on OnlyFans and you can have a make-believe girlfriend for $12 a month. If you have an extra $100, you can have 6 make-believe girlfriends or whatever. And I mean, if you've ever checked out these websites, I mean, chatterbait.com, anyone can go on for free. There's no login. There's nothing. CHATURBATE, chatterbait.com. And you are in this cosmos of essentially solo sex, but it is a really weird kind of solo sex because it's like in the Borg.
Yeah, and actually, if you're in right now today, if you're in Japan or if you're in South Korea, you can buy the robot too.
Yeah. Jeffrey.
Regarding cannabis, a couple of things. There was a guy that Alex Zeck had on his show a few months ago who was involved in cannabis company, and he said how the company got taken over by outside interests and they basically corporate interests, and they were told to emphasize products that basically completely zoned out people rather than what their emphasis was more on using it in terms of enlightenment. This was in a recent past. In the past few years.
You mean they were encouraging it as a means to growth and enlightenment when then the people who took it over wanted like to be proffering the zombie.
Yeah.
Like
so
the
they were emphasizing
heavy indica strains and
particularly edibles with high doses. Yeah. So
I
there
have
was a
a, I
Very
have a
powerful.
brother.
They're
very strong intent to change that. And also in the going back to the 1960s as a time period, in Vietnam you had a study in contrast between how it affects people with from different sides of a social divide. On the one hand, you had the Viet Cong who were quite freely, I mean, smoking cannabis, which, and it didn't seem to in any kind of way inhibit their ability to resist the mightiest armed force in the world. On the other side, you had members of that military, the American military, getting high and not wanting to
Mhm.
fight anymore. And in fact, disobeying their officers and, shall we say, even going further.
shoot
Yes.
them.
Yeah, well, I was
Fragging,
going to
yeah.
say frag. There was the common term, but yeah.
Well,
So
something. Go ahead. Go ahead.
different sides of it evokes different emotions depending upon which side often people are on. It's like a truth serum.
I have a quick thing on this. I have a brother. I have two brothers, one who's in the matrix and one who's very awake. The one who's awake has been a blues guitar player for 50 years and has been I guess you could say, a horticulturist, right? You know, so he has these seeds that he got from from a movie called The Endless Summer, and he met those guys and they were getting the best seeds from around the world. And
So it's got like what, archival, whatever it's called, archival seeds,
heirloom seeds, right?
heirloom seeds, right?
And so basically he made his own product that was allowed him to play incredible guitar for hours and hours, you know, I mean, not suppressing or making him lazy, right? He verified for me, because this guy is truly an epicure about this, that the strains are entirely different. What they've done, they're GMO strains, they're doctored strains. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to get pure strains anymore.
No, there's no pure
Some-
indicas or sativas.
There are, but I mean, you have to make an effort to get them, rather than if you just go in and want something, you'll probably just get a hybrid.
So I'm not doing
Dialed
any of this
to-
stuff now, but I want to just show people who, and I had a hemp representative, I call him, who was he made his own gummies. He took extract, he made his own extract, very talented guy, and he's a confectioner. But now, I took them the first time. Can I even get into this thing? This is what the product looks like. This you can get right down Route 32. Pink Floyd theme. They licensed the word pink, I guess, or quote
okay.
pink. And it's open. I stayed at an Airbnb. Remember the Astrology Chateau that I was at when I did the 2024 readings? How do you get into this damn thing? You gotta ask a child. And then there's this. And I'm trying to get in here to, here they are, to show you how appealing this product is. I mean, it's like unbelievable. But if you eat even 1/3 of these, if I ate a slice, I would be high the entire day tomorrow. And then like this is like these supercharged joints. Milky Way, supercharged, like packed with extra crystal and THC. One hit. Any person who's not a regular cannabis user would be high for like 6 hours,
or even have a bad trip with it.
Well, so what I think is interesting is now that cannabis is being used. They're claiming it treats anxiety. This I think is hilarious. Whereas before, one of the big problems was paranoia. Now, how do we explain that? We go from paranoia to treats anxiety. Is this all about the legality of it now? Suddenly, now it's okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, Ram Dass said that. And it's somewhere in Be Here Now or some other of Ram Dass's writing. No, it's in Right in Be Here Now. That because drugs are illegal, then they're going to naturally come with paranoia. So do you think that the fact that cannabis is, that you can now get, I mean, this is so, it's crazy. The product packaging, it is so unbelievably appealing that you can just go out and pick it up. I I'm in the middle of the country here. Once you leave town, you're in the country, and there's like all these hemp stores. That's why it's being used to treat anxiety.
I'm enjoying some of the comments that are coming through on the side.
What's coming through?
Is that I'm enjoying this on another level since I just smoked some beautiful sativa.
Is this person having any insights they would like to add? What do you say anything you want to two wizards and a warlock?
Yeah, it's the fact that what I'm trying to say is just as they flooded the streets in the late 60s, early 70s with different kinds of drugs, and I even would go and hear a group I loved in, say, 1968. In 1969, it was obvious they were on different substances because the music had become speeded up and no longer, celestial or spiritual. It had totally changed.
Yep.
I think the same thing has happened with flooding and making it good to smoke this type of marijuana, which is basically to make people lazy. I don't mean everybody, but it's just to make people be more happy to be just lost in the digital and the hormone thing you mentioned, I think is so accurate. I mean,
yeah. It's estrogenic. It's feminizing. It's feminizing.
Yeah.
Yep. And I was in a discussion with Roman about this, and I'm like, I found a study which is like the following. Most versions of it, they found that it is feminizing, and so there's already a lot of gender chaos going on right now. Very important part of the chaos of the overall environment, and this is coming from a number of places, and one of them is digital, and one of them is the endocrine disrupting chemicals, and I think another is cannabis.
Yeah.
Betty Dodson's analysis of why cannabis was legal. Dr. Betty Dodson, author of Sex for One, a very good friend of mine, astrology client, and also a teacher of mine. Her whole theory of why cannabis was illegal is because it lowers sexual inhibitions.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I think, absolutely true.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And yet now it seems to be making sexual inhibition so low that chopping your dick off is potentially a sexy idea. That's very, very low sexual inhibitions. I think we can use a little more inhibition.
Mm-hmm.
I still think it's a good, I will expound on this soon. I still think it has its, shall we say, shamanic uses in erotic exploration. I think used specifically and consciously that it can be a doorway. I mean, a lot of this is the way that we use things. I think that's very important.
Well, it's the same thing.
The
same thing with ayahuasca, or some of the other ones. I recently was down in Peru, and I was not down there for ayahuasca. I was doing a healing on some other herbs, and they've now, this one place in Peru has stopped allowing people to come down to do ayahuasca because they just got flooded with young people just wanting to go get high. And we're not really into it from the perspective of spiritual evolution. So they closed it down.
Yeah, and although I'm open, Jeffrey, yes,
what?
that's theory, set and setting, that the context changes the meaning, basically, is what that means. And to be very conscious of of your context, that you're using it on many different levels. With ayahuasca, I have a little game that I'm playing. I've been playing it for a long time, which is, can anyone who's used ayahuasca as part of their spiritual path tell me something I don't know? And the floor's been open for like 20 years. I've been listening, and I have found not only maybe Paloma had an interesting old friend of mine. But it wasn't, I don't think it was ayahuasca. I think it was a mushroom experience.
Maybe mushroom.
Where she was taken to her guides, her mentors, and appeared before kind of a panel. And they said, do you want to live or do you want to die? And she knew that if she said she wanted to live, that from that point she would have to take total responsibility for living. And I thought, that's a good one. That's good. She taught me a lot of photography, by the way. Very wise bird. But as far as of ayahuasca, not only have I not really found anyone who has told me something that I don't know, I have found some of the biggest assholes, by which I mean acting out their assholeness in blatantly vicious behavior, antisocial. You would think this person needs a psychiatrist, are people who've taken a lot of ayahuasca. It has a very negative effect potentially.
The same thing happens for people, and I know some like this who became addicted to, and I mean, they couldn't not do it every week, was to do DMT once a week. You know, and it was like the people, like what happened to John Lilly, you know, who got completely overtaken by ketamine, you know, and they basically lost it because they were not using it in a ceremonial sense and as part of a spiritual initiation that any of the teachers say you don't do more than just a few times, you know, to make a habit is just going to mess your capacity to be here present with what your dharma is.
Yep. Yeah, I'm very lucky. Jeffrey, go ahead.
I was just going to say, tribes people in their natural settings often do once or twice a month ceremonies. Integrated into just their general living pattern, but there's a lot of spirituality involved, and you might say shamanic usage.
Certainly
it's not recreational.
And I understand. I'm not trying to legislate how many times a person should do it. I mean, just say that it's recognizing that it's those things are not recreational. They're designed for opening up to other levels of awareness and consciousness, mainly about your own journey.
Yeah, so I guess a lot of the real wisdom that people have found through, for example, ayahuasca journeying might be very personal.
Yeah.
That is not shareable as something they could, for example, write a book about. Or, I mean, I knew Paloma very well, and she's an articulate person and trusted me enough to say this. And I, you know, was moved by this, and I kind of had the experience also because she had it, I had it. I had to recognize that I continue to be here, and therefore I have to own my being. Yeah. I had a very brief pass through with DMT around maybe 2012. I won't say her name, but she's the woman who gave me my dog Jonah Kelly Francis, and she was a kind of an underground chemist. Very talented, the sweetest, most adorable blonde you've ever met. You'd never in a million years think, oh, this woman's an underground chemist. But she was, and she would make it from weeds. She would buy like 20 pounds of weeds, like chaff, it was sticks basically. And then she would take it through a process that would take about a week, and then she would distill it off and get like that much DMT. So the DMT that I got to do was made totally naturally by someone I really loved. And so I had my integration experience with that, a deep integration. I had enough to use it a few times. And I always chose to stay in body. That's one thing with DMT is that with below a certain dose threshold, and ayahuasca is like DMT, but it's really drawn out. Below a certain dose threshold of DMT, you make the choice to stay in body or go out of body. And I always chose to stay in body. I stayed in my senses and in my physical surrounding. It was just radically changed. I had different command over my emotions. I had a different idea about my existence, but it was still me in my body. And I think a lot of people go way out to the astral plane on DMT, which I think is potentially quite dissociative.
It is. Actually, there are certain versions of it, and I had made the mistake of having the experience once with someone who didn't know what they were doing. And if you do the type that comes from the toad, there's a point. If you do 2 or 3 hits of it in the bong, you have no choice. There's no
Right.
choice. It's like an accelerator thing down to the floor, and there's no way you could choose. It's
Bufo-Rama, is that
right.
Mhm.
yeah, that's funny. It's a homeopathic remedy also made from that. But what do you mean made from the toad? Do they kill the toads? They just like scrape it off or wash them or something? They collect it from the toads. Because if you lick the
I don't know.
toads,
I don't know.
I mean, basically it's toad. I mean, this is why licking toads creates Prince Charming, and that may be part of the origin of that fairy tale. You pick up a toad and you kiss the toad, and then like everything changes.
Right.
Mhm.
It's the Sonoran desert toad.
The Sonoran Desert Toad. Yeah, I haven't looked up Bufo-Rama, but before I knew what that remedy was, I had this vision that it was like Buffalo Rama, and it was like almost like the Dancing Bears, Owsley's Dancing Bears, and I had this vision of buffalo dancing in a circle, a very psychedelic, like kind of as a spoof on Bufo-Rama, like Buffalo Rama, here we go, we're dancing buffaloes. I'm big into buffalo. And I finally looked it up in my Materia Medica, and I'm like, oh, it's a hallucinogen. The very words conveyed the concept to me without even knowing what it was. But that's homeopathy for you. Yeah. So, set and setting, but it's like hard to do that. People have got these vape pens that they're carrying with them everywhere. The cops don't know what to do. I had a friend in, let's say, the police community, like give me a whole rundown on like cannabis traffic stops. And you either want to not do the sobriety test or not fail it. And then you're in New York, you're safe. You refuse it or you pass it. So don't do it if you think you're not going to pass the sobriety test, because then it makes it very very complicated to prosecute. But it's opening up this whole I mean, I'm so sensitive that I've got a pretty nice stereo in one of my cars, and I drive in this. I don't want to be listening to this thing. It's too in perfectly sober state of mind, too transporting out of the here and now. I rather listen to the police scanner. It's random. It's much more about situational awareness, and this pisses off the guy who installed my car stereo to no end. That I'd rather listen to the state police pulling people over. But in many ways, I find it much more interesting to be in reality, to be listening to ambulance calls.
Eric,
Yeah.
ask a question. How do you do that?
What's that?
Listen to the scanner. Do you have a specific special device to do
No,
that?
it's legal. Here's one. I've got to get the antenna replaced. But it's just like this. It's very simple, and it has a little antenna here, and you turn it on, and you punch in your zip code, and then it looks up the location, and it's in the database. There's a database, there's somewhere a chip in there somewhere that has everything in the country, and that's it. You listen. There's better ones and worse ones. There's ones that are more optimized, and it's legal to have it in your car.
Is that expensive?
I would say the total cost I'm not sure about every state, but most states, it's legal, unless you commit a crime, in which case, a tool belt you can be charged for a tool belt.
Yeah.
right? It's legal to have a tool belt, except if you are committing a crime with the tool belt, and then you can be charged with the tool belt. Probably the total cost would be about $600 or $700 to have to buy the unit, to have it installed. Yeah, it's not you don't even need. It's a simple installation. $500 you can have it. And check the law in your state. But there's the best one is combined with a CB radio, so it is for all the world CB radio.
Yeah.
It's indistinguishable from a CB radio, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. But I have learned a lot listening to it, mainly about how society functions. I'm very interested in how society functions. I'm interested in all kinds of ideas and literature and art, but I love society functioning. My most fun nights listening to the scanner are snowstorms. Ordinary, not cataclysmic, ordinary snowstorms. And what do you hear? You hear mostly men clearing the highways, communicating with each other about clearing the highways. I fucking love this. I find it so engaging and so entertaining and so reassuring to hear the people taking care of the New York State Thruway. And I think this is some insight into my character. I'm not the average investigative reporter, but there's that part of me that just loves the functioning of civic society and has tremendous respect for garbage men and the meter guy. I want to smack him around a little bit, but
The people who keep it running.
yeah, and it's serious business to keep it running. When all the wires come down, there's a big mess in California. There's going to be a lot of people exposed at the lithium fire in Moss Point. They have very dangerous jobs, and I think we need to.
We're getting another one tomorrow.
What?
Another big wind event in Southern California.
Yes.
I haven't been following what percentage they're down to there. Like have they contained the Eden and the Palisades fires?
Eden is more than 50% contained. The Palisades one is about a third to a half. There's always, there are more sites. Like tomorrow's event is supposed to concentrate on Ventura County and in the San Gabriel Valley, which is the area east of LA.
Like
Going out
Oxnard
towards
and places
San
like that?
It's what?
Oxnard and places like that?
Oxnard is Ventura County, yeah.
Aye.
Ojai, and the other one is like going out to
but
Pomona.
didn't Ojai already burn? Wasn't
Yes.
that didn't that already? Ojai, right?
I'm just saying as far as the town in the county.
I see. I get it.
Yeah.
So I think that tracking the effect of exposure to this news in like news people who just getting the news on their phone or following Twitter, I think we need some news counseling here. Like, for example, if I couldn't jump in and participate, right, with my readers, with my listeners, with compiling news reports and interpreting it, I don't know what I would do. I would go nuts. I don't know what it's like just to be on the brunt of this stuff, to have no context for it and just to be kind of like dangled helplessly in front of it. I don't think it's a very safe activity. It's kind of like, talk about set and setting. I think we have to be very conscious in the way that we consume the news.
I have a great deal of compassion for people who do not have the time in their lives to actually research this kind of stuff. I'm really fortunate that part of my job really is to look at the media from all different sides, but the alternative, the different types of alternative. I also look at the mainstream, and I have the time to do that. But I have a great deal of compassion for those that are not able to do that, and they're just at the effect of the fear stuff, rather than being able to look at it from many different sides.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm fortunate that I get to do what I do, which is to research all different sides, including the historical contexts.
Yeah.
But I agree with you entirely that my life has the value it has because I can talk to so many people all the time. Clientele, school, people in the school. I mean, it's that personal contact that's most important. I think in some respects, what my main function is to connect with people who just need some support. That they're not alone. To kind of give them some feedback that how you're perceiving this is accurate, and that we're actually we're all in all of this together, and to have those connections. I think it's very similar to what you get to experience with people.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and like doing the astrology of news events, I had, and we can look at some of these charts, but I let me switch cameras and see here. Let's see if this thing works again. We can check on the snowpocalypse. No, let's take a look at the snowpocalypse and see what's going on. There, that is the end of the world from 4 inches of snow. They were way off. But I kind of I have like all these charts. Like Cindy Ragusa found out when ChatGPT actually went online. She somehow dug through the code. This is one of my favorites, the iPhone. Both big Eris charts. With ChatGPT, you get Sun Eris in this sesquiquadrate, the trigger aspect from Uranian astrology. Boom. And then in the iPhone, you have Sun Eris again. Let me see this. Sun Eris, exact square. Mercury Sun square Eris. So I love these charts. I've got a big folder of them, and the entirety. Oh, here is the Plutonian Inauguration. Very nice title. And many of these charts. I went through some of them, and anything you can find the time of. TikTok. So Eli got this one right. Eli is more tuned into the technical environment than I am. He said, it's not going to last. And I said, well, they took it down, and it's a big chart. We've got this angular Mars Eris thing here. Like, this is just massive. But the sun was void, of course. The sun goes into Aquarius, and TikTok comes back on.
I had wanted to get your opinion on just even what's happened in the last 24, 36 hours regarding TikTok. There's a great deal of evidence out there that actually the Israelis are the ones that wanted to absolutely make sure it got taken down, because TikTok does not have the same censoring qualities that other platforms do. And I did find it very interesting. Wondered what your opinion on this is. That it almost like it's what's Trump up to, because he basically has now rescinded it, and he wants to give a 90-day delay on the whole thing, because actually, while it could be very critical, and in fact, I know what it is that China had in mind when they dumped TikTok on America, which was to distract people into frivolous kinds of things. But while in China, it's a very different platform. There, it's mainly all government propaganda. And so they loved having Americans all do TikTok, but the truth is it's not censored. So there can be all kinds of things on there that, point out the genocides, the point out Zionism and all that kind of stuff. And the Israelis very much in their tech control don't want that to happen. So they were the ones that convinced Biden to go through this whole thing to make it illegal. So it's just fascinating to see what Trump might be up to on this.
Yeah, Seth Abramson, who's I follow my reliable source on the left is Seth Abramson. Proof of collusion, truth of collusion, a number of he's like solid old school left.
Mm-hmm.
Not like this horseshit mockery that we get these days. And he said that his take was that it was Trump basically coming off like a hero. Oh, Trump saved TikTok. So he gets a big boost and, coming in like, oh, everyone gets their TikTok back. I mean, the notion that you could take down an app that 170 million Americans use is kind of frightening and ominous. And
Well, also Trump's been hanging out with the billionaire owner, and
yeah, he's in town.
right.
He's invited for the party.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm sure there's a financial thing going on here also, that not just he wants to be made a hero. He can, sort of dual value,
Yeah. Will Musk buy it? Will they end up selling it to Elon to turn it into another shitter?
Speaking of Elon,
Uh,
there was the whole big row about H-1B that he and the Swami defended as far as against the MAGA ranks, and they're denounced by people such as Candace Owens and Steve Bannon.
What is H-1B?
The visa that
Oh.
allows the hiring of foreign workers for particular tasks, really used by high tech.
Ah.
And
it was actually John Rappaport that you mentioned him. One of his posts was when he was questioning Chat GBT about it, and what they came through was just saying, look, this whole thing is so ridiculous because there's already 7 or 8 other kinds of visas that a high intelligent, high tech individual can get a visa. So the whole thing is a complete BS, and it has split the MAGA group.
What happened was that Trump would then said he supports Elon and Vivek, and the people who denounced Elon and Vivek over this went silent. They suddenly stopped talking about this.
Well, they were also the censoring on Twitter X is worse than it was in the previous platform.
Yeah.
And it seems that other than attending meetings with Trump in Mar-a-Lago, that Elon's primary job is staying up all night sending out tweets. Who's running those companies? Well, I can tell you who's running those companies, which is DARPA and intelligence agencies are running it. The companies have never made any money. It's actually, a lot of people don't know this, that the number one company in the world that has gotten subsidies from China is Tesla. Number one as far as for China is giving subsidies to a company.
Yeah.
How does he have $500 billion of personal wealth?
His SpaceX contracts, his connections with the previous connections with the stock options he's had, inside jobs with his connection to the PayPal mafia. It just goes on and on. I mean, it's been really heavily documented by people like Whitney Webb and Derek Bros. They've gone into it in quite a bit of detail about how that money is there and how much of it is actually real. The whole thing is showbiz.
You mean that he doesn't really have $500 billion?
Well, who really has $500 billion?
There's a safe.
Does he have like $1 billion in his checkbook? Like what does he do? Does he have like a special credit card where he can like buy a city?
Checks. I don't think he needs checks.
Right, but this is what I'm asking. Like, does he use a debit card that has like $1 billion in it, or everyone just gives him? Has anyone ever seen the movie Man with a Million? It's a very old film, and he's a 1954 film. A kind of a hobo ends up with a $1 million pound note, and just because he has that, everyone gives him everything for free. He doesn't even need the money. Everyone just gives him things.
Huh. The money's like confidence.
It's quite a good movie.
And Elon is quite open about the fact that he is a longtime supporter of the guaranteed minimum income. You know, I mean, as well as carbon credits. You know, these are all WEF plans, and he's down with all of them.
Well, that's definitely part of 4IR, which will probably get enhanced.
So then what's going to
tomorrow.
happen is like every month, everyone's going to get one of these in the mail. And you eat your gummy and like everything's fine.
You get your tokens online. Basically, it's going to be certain tokens that will privilege you to get certain services or buy certain things.
So it'll be like
Provided you've
Snap,
done
where
it.
Snap, where you have a credit, like a debit card. You can go to the farmer's market and buy things with it.
Right. Yeah. Somebody wanted us to get back to the inauguration, but it wasn't clear if we mean the
Well,
change
let's
in
And
regime
also,
or the
I
inauguration
think
event
it's,
itself.
I also someone asked a very good question, I thought, which is how 15-minute cities have been rebranded as freedom cities.
For like freedom fries. Whatever happened to freedom fries? Remember those during the Iraq War that the congressional dining room changed the name of French fries because France was our enemy or something, because France was against the war, so we were going to strip them of
Liberty salad from 1917.
Yeah, but the the problem with the French fry theory is that French fries are actually Belgian. They're Belgian fries.
Don't confuse us
French.
with the actual facts.
Right, now I'm trying to find. See, I spend a lot of time. If you want another you want to gaze into my character. Oops, no, I look at that a lot. But here, if you want to gaze into my character, here, I'm going to try to find. I've got the Trump inauguration 2017, so I'm going to put that there. Now, if I lose it, remind me where I put it. We don't need ChatGPT. We don't need the iPhone anymore. TikTok is now gone undark, but that still goes in the digital chart file. These I talked about at the beginning of the program. Seneca Falls we'll come back to in my ongoing expose of the crime scene known as feminism. Declaration of Independence. This one we need for this. Trump 2017. And then the chart is called Trump with Eris. Okay, here's Trump with Eris. Can I point out the wildest thing in this chart? Tell me if anyone agrees. So we're tracking Eris. When you look at all of these charts for major shifts in the digital environment, the Eris shows up every damn time. It's like she's running the table, basically. And my delineation of Eris is where the mental environment intersects with the technology environment. It's that intersection. So check this out. This is Eris 24. I hope you can see this. I don't know how much closer I can bring this down. Maybe I can.
I can see.
It's all right.
Good.
Right, it's okay.
I don't know what people are looking on. 2424 Eris. 2424 retrograde Mars. The inauguration is happening. If you went to the ephemeris and looked up the time, there's no ephemeris that really has this, but I can make one on the internet. The exact moment of the inauguration is the exact square of Mars and Eris. I mean, this is to have that precision. When you get down to this level, the arc minute, you have to divide the wheel into 23,000 slices. So this is exact to 1/23,000th of the total wheel resolution, 2424, 2424. That is absolutely freaking nuts. You would think that's impossible, and you can't say that they're using astrology to plan this because the time of the the inauguration is set in the Constitution.
Right.
There's no way to. This is why I love the inauguration charts. So also up here in the 10th house of the president. Well, yeah, this is Capricorn is 9 because it's Earth to the Taurus rising, and then we have Sun Pluto conjunction in the 10th. This looks like a big tech takeover to me. The Plutonian. This is the Plutonian inauguration. There's never been a Sun Pluto conjunction at the inauguration ever. This is it. This is the first one, and probably not the last, because Pluto's going to just move along only slowly. We are looking at a high tech takeover of the country.
I agree.
And I mean like blowing the doors open. Let's go. We're going to need strategies for how to deal with this, and we're going to need to take care of each other for how to do this. I love making tomato sauce. You, Daniel?
Yeah, Eric, one thing that I had been looking at, because I know you probably know that I place a lot of attention on the Jupiter transit also.
So
And
what's going on in the
well, relative to the U.S.
so
July
here's
4th.
here's Sibley.
I use a slightly different one. I come up with 13 Sag rising, but for the most part,
Okay, but Sag rising is Sag rising.
I'm using Rajar's slight rectification of it.
10 minutes. Yeah, it's 10 minutes. He does
3
5:20.
minutes later, 5:13, 55. So 13
But
minutes, 55 seconds
the
after.
important thing is that it still lines up with 9/11.
Oh, sure. No, I'm
Where
just
you
my
had
point.
Pluto
what I'm-
here
Uh-huh.
and Saturn here. So the Saturn-Pluto opposition of 9/11 happens right on the angles.
Right.
of
Right.
the-
No,
of the
it
chart.
doesn't change that. But what I was referring to is that I was looking back at the last two inaugurations. The last two also had Jupiter and Gemini. And so it's that 12-year pattern with Jupiter. So we had the which one is it? A Bush one, an Obama one. So that actually every 12 years, going back to 2001, the inaugurations have had Jupiter and Gemini, and I consider this current transit of Jupiter three conjunctions with U.S. Mars, which is what I consider to be one of the other factors other than the big tech takeover, which is the even greater amplification of the duopoly understanding in the U.S. And we say we have to have a strategy. In my view, the strategy other than not complying, which I think is Chiron and Aries, that's the other, Chiron return on the U.S. chart. Do not comply. That's like the aggressive stance of a true warrior. I do not comply. But the other is to attempt, and boy, this is really one of the things I'm trying to do more than anything with the people in my school, is to be able to look at a third way, approach that is not bought into, one side or the other. Because it's kind of like built into the U.S. chart that they're just going to descend into black, red, or I'm sorry, red, blue, blue, red. One becomes blue, one becomes red, and it's only two choices. To be able to have a third way, actually a good way of using the Aquarius moon on the chart to have an objective view on the whole thing and not be caught up into my team versus your team.
Yeah.
Oh, what a crock
Neither
of
one
shit
is my
that
team.
What a crock of shit that is, though. I mean, it is so absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason I discovered this myself, which is that I mean, on a lot of issues, you would say that I lean left. I'm against the death penalty. I'm unable to start video. Hold on. Oh no. How do I restart my video? Eli, you're listening?
Yep. Yeah, a little video icon on the bottom left. Is that cross?
Yeah, I ain't taking it. It ain't doing it. It says unable.
Let me put you back as host. One second.
Okay.
I might have to fix it.
All right, thanks for paying attention, bro.
I'm here. Give it another shot.
All right.
Yeah, January 20th, 01 was the first
Thanks, E.
George W. Bush, and then January 21st, 2013 was the second Obama. And now this one, all Jupiter and Gemini.
Yep, and it's Jupiter. Jupiter is I'm going to make my point in a second about conservative and Republican, but here we have I'm going to write right over this Saturn. Hold on a second. And those of you in the viewing audience, you can try this. This is the snowpocalypse. The world is apparently still there, and I don't see any snow falling. I'm going to write right over that Saturn. Jupiter is right here. And
Yes.
does that belong there? Yep, that Jupiter is there. And it's at 11.
Mm-hmm.
39, and that's how you mark. That's how you know to transit. You take the inner wheel. You can do this with your birth chart. You can do it with your marriage chart or anything like that. Where am I? How do I get this back here? Which way is up? That way is up. So now Jupiter is on the 7th house cusp of this chart. I mean, that's pretty big. This is the invasion. This is the technocrats looking all benevolent like Jupiter, two-faced in Gemini, retrograde. They know their plan. Most people are like, ooh, AI, iPhone 15, iPhone 16, yeah, iPhone 17.
Oh, there's that, but what I'm trying to bring up here is that the GW Bush, the 2001, then it's like everything then becomes, it's red and we have to be against that.
Yep.
And then comes Obama in 2013, the second Obama, whose main job was to break the hearts of the ones on the left.
Yeah.
So now we have it's swung back the other way, but still people are only thinking of it from the perspective of two different sides rather than what the U.S. original dream, which is the Aquarius Moon Sag rising, which is going to be a much larger framework than the duopoly.
Yeah.
What I found it very significant, the video that I saw of Mark Andreessen with Peter Robinson at the Hoover Institution. The fact that Peter Robinson was Reagan's speechwriter, and the whole video was basically, it was titled about how this is the second coming of Reagan.
Oh God.
This is Morning in America.
It started with Morning in America. I mean, if you want a puke-provoking ad, which is one of the best ads ever written, along with the Daisies, along with Johnson's Daisies ad and the Hilltop ad from Coca-Cola, this is like the 60 Seconds of Hate. Look up the Morning in America ad from the 1984 election campaign. So what cured me of red and blue and thinking that, first of all, as a journalist, I really have to hear from everybody. And so I've even though, particularly till recently, my politics were very left. I mean, I'm still, war, no, prisons, most people don't belong there, et cetera, et cetera. You can go down the whole liberal list. I was there much of my life, but I always maintained conversations with conservatives who I supposedly disagreed with. And then I got deep enough into those conversations to find out that I really didn't disagree with them that much. And they didn't really, on much more fundamental issues than all these checkbox, oh, you're a liberal if you believe that. And if you're a conservative, you believe all 20 of these things, that's your thing. I found much more fundamental understandings about existence. But then something else happened. I've had an illustrious, long and storied career doing what I do, and at various times I have been declared persona non grata, or arrested for journalism, or thrown out of the place, or shut down, or various things over the last 41 years of playing this game with existence I play. No conservative has ever once tried to shut down my ability to speak to the public.
Right.
The only people who have ever done it were liberals and Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Consistently, and I mean like nine separate occasions. I'm like, I did therapy. I went to Joe. I did a series of sessions with Joe, and I said, you know, what's going on? What's going on with this? I don't agree with them on any issues. Why do conservatives like me so much? And this is very positive relationships through my reporting career. That the people who helped me were the most often were Republicans or conservatives of a certain kind, and they knew I never conceal what I believe, what I think, what my viewpoints are. I'm cards up all the time. Why am I invited to like Republicans' house for Christmas, and then, like Democrats are like trying to arrest me for writing an article? It's like, we finally come up with, well, they see something in you that they envision as being part of the true American dream. We do like 3 or 4 therapy sessions, and we work this out. Very wise old bird, Joe Trusso. And they said we agree that they see something in me that when they think of what America is supposed to be about, regardless of my beliefs. So this one of many, many experiences that absolutely cured me of believing that the terms Republican, Democrat, conservative, and liberal had anything to do with reality.
Yeah, and go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and it's kind of fun. I mean, I thoroughly enjoy being welcome for dialogue with people who don't agree with me, and valuing their opinions, valuing the opinions of people I don't agree with. We got to do more of this. And I'm not the first person to think of this. Remember the old Truth Out? They did the Red State road trip, where Truth Out was fantastic in like 2001 and 2002, and they did a road trip. They went through all the red states. Right, where it's supposed to be like redder than red and bluer than blue, and if it was red, you were in hell, and it was the devil, you know, and if it was blue, it was angels fluttering around. And they found out that they went through all these red states, and people were welcoming them. I mean, True Thought was a real bastion of liberal politics when the concept meant something, and they found out that they really had very little to disagree with all the people in these red states. I don't know where this exists on the internet. It may be saved somewhere in the archive, but it was hilarious, fabulous journalism.
Well, all I was going to say was that in the thesis I'm presenting here about red becomes blue, blue becomes red, I also, like you, I mean, all through the 60s and 70s, I would say that I was far more to the left, you know, and I was Democrats and so on. But back in the 60s, it was exactly reversed. The openness to new ideas and to actually what I would consider to have moral and ethical values were on the quote left at that particular time period. But if you have a much wider sweep of history on this, I'm always reminded of my dad, who was born in the Bronx, and so he was an Italian boy in the Bronx. And in the 1930s, there were only 3 choices that a young Italian boy could do. He could be on the streets with the brown shirts that were in favor of the fascism of Mussolini, or you could be out on the streets of the ones that are supporting Stalin,
communists,
which they believed at that point was the idealism that was associated with that. There was a third option that 2 of his brothers chose, which was to join the mafia. But it was just like, there was another example of you know, you either go to the right or you go to the left, but they meant different things at that particular time frame. What he chose was something different, though. He didn't. His 2 brothers joined the mafia. He wasn't in harmony with the brown shirts or the Stalinists, you know, the communists. So he joined the military. And right at the beginning of World War II.
Oh, God. Did he
And
survive?
right, and so he never went into battle, but he did go to the Philippines, and he ended up actually running the logistics and procurement of the Vietnam War out of Fort Shasta in Hawaii in the late 60s. And I have to say that I had a great deal to do with him retiring, because he knew on the inside the corruption and what was really going on. They were offering him a generalship to go to Saigon and run the war, and he decided, hell with this, and he decided to just retire and get the
This is
fuck
your
out.
dad.
Yeah.
So
But that's just an example of this shifting, our different perceptions of right and left have been purposely screwed, I mean,
well, now the only people I can even have a conversation with are conservatives, so-called conservatives.
Well, certain
People on the left
conversations.
won't even talk to me. They won't even talk to me.
Well, there's certain conversations that you can only have with people on the quote unquote right, like during the lockdown, the principal opposition came from the right. And likewise, after 9/11, most of the websites that posted any kind of connection to truth were right-wing ones.
Yeah.
But then on a matter of immigration and the large population.
I completely disagree with all this whole so-called right-wing position. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another framework on this. I've had two people who have canceled being connected to my school because I very clearly state that I'm trying to come from a place that is neither red or blue, to have this other perspective on it. Their assumption was I then became the enemy because that means you're going to let Trump get elected. If you follow what I mean, that was why it's just that they were incapable of perceiving a different way of looking at it. Like I choose not to choose the lesser of the two evils. I'm choosing to not comply to a system that is neither democratic nor fair. I mean, because the majority of the eligible voters didn't even participate. It was even worse in England, where you basically have the entire thing over there run by one party, and they got like 30% of 30%. I mean, and here in this country, I mean, I've always felt that if there was the possibility of having none of the above, or I abstain, holding some degree of power, we'd have a completely different system. So that if you had, like, say, in a specific state, the votes did not go, and the majority vote just was none of the above, or I abstain, that would hold some value in the Electoral College. And so then you would not be able to elect a president based upon 30% or 40% of 40%.
It would nullify the election, but the point of the Electoral College is just to override all of that. It's the House of Lords, basically.
Right, I'm saying, but
it doesn't matter what the commoners do. It's the House of Lords.
But if you had a state that could not assign electors because there was no one who got a majority in that state, so that abstaining or saying none of the above had some power. It doesn't, so then it's very easy for someone to say, you chose not to vote, so therefore you're consenting to, Trump to win or something, or probably, who knows? They might have said you're now letting, Biden or Kamala Harris win, So it's just they weren't incapable of even perceiving there's another way of looking at things other than the duopoly.
That's what I was getting when I was criticizing RFK Jr. for jumping on the Trump bandwagon. You're just helping Kamala, who's the wicked witch, become president. And they also jumped on board the whole idea of using border security, meaning high-tech security and eventually digital ideas.
Exactly.
To check citizenship. Here they were opposing health passports, and now they're jumping into the digital security pen because that's a valid reason to do that.
Well, we're going to need a whole new health freedom movement because what was passing for the health freedom movement, it was effective for a while, but now they're kind of going along with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Trump is in. Yeah.
And then I was really embarrassed.
Oh,
The
I was
people
just gonna.
supporting Kennedy.
I
Health
was
freedom
just going to
people.
say
Go ahead.
there's a new Kennedy had a meeting with Albert Bourla. You remember who he is?
No.
Yes.
President of Pfizer.
Mhm.
And Bourla said they had developed a good relation,
Oh,
and he
please. Oh, I
praised.
heard this.
Yeah,
Yeah. But they had apparently a 3-hour meeting with each other.
yeah. And now it's all okay. Robert Malone said, hey, get over it as far as people are still complaining about the lockdown.
And then also Tulsi changed her opinion, on the one of the stronger points she made, which was not she was against the warrantless wiretaps, and now she said, oh, I can go along with it.
What did Malone say?
Oh,
You know,
get over it.
Get
When
over
people
what?
were, oh, the lockdowns and the vaccine mandates.
Oh, what a crackpot.
Yeah,
But I wouldn't expect anything less from him. Isn't he the guy who sued Peter Bregan for like $80 million or
yes,
something
and
like
he's
that?
also the one who is pushing big time that mRNA vaccines can be used for everything. They're going to save the world.
yeah.
He's still doing that.
He's developing them.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of Trojan horseness going on now, and I think you have to be really careful and not think that what something is not maybe what it's not.
There's something that I came upon recently. It's a video that is put out by a lot of the people, a couple of the organizations on the right. And the first 40, 50 minutes of it it's a lot of just that basic stuff we've been talking about here. Oh, this seems like a very conscious and approach to revealing what's going on, until you get the last 5 minutes of it. And the last 5 minutes is, so we have the good AI. We are the ones that are going to have the AI that takes down the bad AI. And that was really the whole point, if you made it through the end of that video to get to that point. And to me, that's just like a whole other different version of people. So we'll trust the plan, that we'll have the good 5G, we'll have the good geoengineering, we'll have the good AI. And people are falling for that. And it's like they have no memory, as far as what was being said in 2020. Don't worry about 5G. Don't worry about geoengineering. Don't worry about. We have the good nanotech. We have the good satellites. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, we could see the battle of the AI robots. But there will be things like internet shutdowns and I mean, Pluto and Aquarius is going to have a lot of interesting twists and turns to it, and there could be uprisings of robots and uprisings of one AI system. It could happen.
Mm-hmm.
It really could happen. Juan Christian Guerrero. Political affiliations only tend to do little more for those who hold them than mask an abysmal lack of intellectual curiosity and candid integrity.
Yep.
It's a palliative. It basically means you don't have to think for yourself. Therefore, I'm going to follow this agenda. I am so happy that never had any appeal for me. I never got high on that stuff. It never did anything for me. And it was crazy seeing, here in upstate New York, a lot of the best work on health freedom came right from within like 50 miles of where I'm sitting.
Mm-hmm.
Andy Kaufman is more than 50 miles away, but that's still pretty close. Bill Houston, a minor player, but still he was involved. Tom Cowan is across the river in Hudson, and then out in Ghent, there was a meeting place called ArcLight. where there were regular events, and we met, we met during the lockdowns, and we had like a virology underground with Cowan and Kaufman. That was where they met, and what had happened was a group of conservatives were very concerned about the revocation of the religious exemption, and they got together in 2019. And so that organization was already moving when COVID happened about 6 months later. So there was a lot of movement here. And then Kennedy gets into the game, and the whole thing went pro-Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
And there was not even any talking to them about it. They made Bernie Sanders and Obama people seem open-minded.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I kind of like Bernie Sanders, but the Bernie supporters were almost militant, and the Obama supporters were like robots. This was that. It was that bad, and I'm like, why, they asked me why I don't support Kennedy. Well, how about he lied to me when the whole business of does the thing with a V exist? In my best article, he and CHD give 4 different positions on the whole issue of what I call the missing virus problem. 4 different positions, and to my knowledge, I'm the only person who has the childlike chutzpah to just kind of wake up in the morning and write about this because it's the thing. It's the thing to do, and what I am driven by curiosity. My entire my entire thing, this whole thing, like wonder whether like what is it about this person? Well, I'm curious. And then I tell you what I find out. I don't profess that it's true or the truth or whatever. I'm interested in the world and existence and life, and I love listening to snowstorms on the scanner, where most people would rather listen to like big fires. I'm happy with the snowplows, and I'm curious about existence and life. And I mean, I think that this is partly why I'm a happy person, is that I'm curious. I mean, I'm a dog sniffing around all the time.
Well, for me, I appreciate that. I have a slightly different way I look at this whole thing. I call it sardonic entertainment.
I know that approach. It's a little older school. It's yeah.
But my wife, the way
how
my
perverse
wife,
it is, how perverse it all is.
It's almost funny, I mean, that's her way of synthesizing what I mean by sardonic entertainment, and you have to be able to look at it from that more objective perspective, so yeah, that's quite, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else but to be in this time frame to see how it's
I can't be cynical. That's the thing, and I don't know if people notice that I'm not cynical. And I have every factual reason to be jaded. I mean, I've seen a lot of bad shit, and I've avoided war zones, but not certain war zones. I mean, I found myself right in the middle of environmental wars, and we're going to kill you. We're going to kill you people, and I'm not a cynical or a jaded person. I remain curious, and then I'm conscious where I direct my curiosity. There are certain things that I will not. I have this very powerful laser that I contain, and I will not go probing into where I get warned off. And my esoteric studies, and Bailey in particular, are like, you don't want to know too much about how the dark side operates. And I really took that to heart. She's very clear about that one of the best ways to get drawn into the dark side is to probe too deeply into how it works. And this is why I try to warn people off of certain types of investigative reporting. It becomes obsessive. And, I think one of them, for those who really practice A Course in Miracles, way deep in, it says, you'll be told everything you need to know. If you accept that you've made the important choices in your life, you'll be told what you need to know. And so a lot comes to me, and I decide what to do with it.
Well, there was an individual that was very influential for me 25 years ago. It was a guy named Val Valerian. and he put out a journal called The Leading Edge. And his approach, and I think we're not saying something different here. His approach was that if you can take it all in, if you can look at the light and the dark, and you can look at the reality of the middle world, it's an exercise in awareness and consciousness. But if it puts you into fear, then don't go there. You know, because the purpose of awareness of all the different realms is an exercise in Aquarian, true Aquarian consciousness, to be able to have a fair witness, to be able to be in a non-evaluative, neutral place about it all. But from that place, you can take it all in, including the shadow, and which is why I'm emphasizing, like, you know, the different shadows of the signs, or, you know, what is, you know, how the so-called dark force operates. You know, that if it puts a person into fear, then don't go there. But as a higher exercise of awareness, you can breathe it all in and be willing to look at it all. I don't think sardonic is caustic. Sardonic is
Maybe I don't understand what that word means. Hold on, let me get the history of it.
I always looked at sardonic as being the most positive version of it's a more positive state than caustic or cynic.
Yeah, hold on. I am many times a day, or certainly at least every day, and sometimes many times a day, I'm in the Etymology Online Dictionary.
Very good.
Let's go. Because you got to know what every word means. I had a great grad school teacher who I didn't like that much at the time, but one of the most important things he told me was, if you're reading something, make sure you know what every word means.
I agree.
Look up every word.
Well,
and you
I even, in that post that I sent to you, I went into the meaning of the word augur, like in inauguration. Did you see what I wrote about that?
That's divination. Augury is the divination by the flight of birds.
But it came from Roman times, where they were basically trying to discern the omens for the king. You know, so it was something that was done for the ruling class.
Ah, of course. Yes.
So it's a Latin word.
Hold on.
Augur. I put that in my article.
I think that, okay. So one thing I do is
that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing here.
Yes. That's looking at the inauguration chart. So I do a lot of satires, and a lot of them, like not as many as I'd like. I wish I had more time, but April Fool's Day is my highest holiday of the year, and that is I get a lot of peace of mind from making sure that I settle all my scores on April Fool's Day. And that's sardonic, apparently, but not really proceeding from gaiety. But I make sure my shit's really funny.
Well, sardonic
that's the thing.
Is closer to what we're talking about here, because there's some people that want to censor satire because they're offended by it, because it sounds
it doesn't work so good.
That's not funny.
And it's not that, but satire is one of the most effective political tools. People out of the Eastern Bloc said that what was the most effective was satire. I once did, I have it in the next room, in the middle of the SUNY New Paltz PCB contamination disaster, with the men in white suits and oxygen tanks and all roaming around on campus and buildings boarded up and underground contamination spreading. My friends and I did a satire on the graduation program with things like an ad for Love Canal brand condoms and a nuclear drill, an actual meltdown, scheduled into the thing. And we had it open on the student leader computer for a month. We maybe 10 of us contributed until the thing was absolutely refined down to a state of perfection, and printed up 1,000 copies and organized a distribution at graduation. And because I had nearly gotten arrested at the previous year's graduation, I knew all their MOs and I knew when to give the thing out, which was like 20 seconds before the processional started. Because all the faculty and all the staff and all the security were with everybody in the faculty in their caps and gowns. And my ushers went up and down all the rows and gave out a stack and said, please pass this down. Well, I learned something. We had a kind of a mole up in the president's office, right? Who we could trust. And they said the phone rang off the hook for 3 days straight. We never got that. Well, I mean, I have to say, I got some traction with certain articles, but nothing like that directed in protest right at the president's office. 3 days straight for a spoof, wicked funny spoof.
Well, this is actually, in at least my own research, the original archetypal essence of Gemini was the Heyoka, was the only one who could tell the king the truth and not be killed.
Yeah.
And the fool, the holy fool, the one who knew all the stories, and actually for a long time, that if the king did not allow it to happen, he would lose his legitimacy to rule. If you did not allow that satire spoofing to happen, because the person knew all the stories, they could dazzle and look. Here's and the king had to listen there and listen to it.
Gentlemen, I have to take my leave, but it would be nice if you two could keep it up, because you're on a roll. So
Yeah, nighty night there. So it's 7 o'clock.
oh, it's past.
What's that? Time for bed.
It's past 7. It's okay.
Great seeing you again, Jeff. Really.
Likewise, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you for
Likewise.
joining us.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can share the screen here. How do I I'm having trouble sharing my screen. Let's see. I'm looking at the dots. I don't see that. Share. No.
I'm going to have to also head off here shortly. So I'm looking at the gallery now, and I wanted to shout out. I see a fair number of people in our school that jumped on here today. Shiva, Tom, Gail.
Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Yeah, Bo's here with us. And Sharon. I'm just seeing the different individuals that I know that took time off today in order to join with us today.
Excellent.
Thanks for being here.
So let me just see if I can get this up on the screen. Does anyone know? I'm somehow not seeing a share screen option anywhere. Does anyone out there in Zoom land know how to do this? It was not. I heard my phone buzz. Maybe that was Eli. It's not the green share. If it's not the green share, but Eli, I've done this in the past and it worked. It was quite easy. I've done it like a lot of times. Ah, it is. It is easy. All right. Okay. Here is the most effective out of probably between 100 to 200 articles and getting in the New York Times and basically waging a, can everyone see this?
Yeah.
So 1,000 copies of this one. And New Paltz is not a big college. And there we go. Complete with a photo of the Parker Theater where they let the pipes freeze and the pipes burst. And Momar's Toxic Tuxedo Rentals, a PCB blood cleaning screening, Action Cleaners. That was actually the name of the company that was cleaning up the campus. Action Cleaners. Yes, this coupon good for nothing. Rent 1 semester in Bliss and get 1 free. Ralph's shoe decontamination. I found that clip art at the printer. I'm like, I'm gonna find the right clip art of shoes. A toast while Reichs Chancellor Alice Chandler drinks a glass of Waterford. She thought she was real classy. Ascarel PCB oil to prove that it's harmless. Dioxin evacuation drill. Don't worry, it's just a drill. And then, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. the conferring of the degrees, the PCB, the 2378 TCDD equivalent. This is all very technically accurate, and then ending with an article randomly appearing on the back. Phone rang for 3 days straight. And so this is Heyoka. The word Heyoka is actually right in the Planet Wave terms of service, Daniel.
Oh, good. That's cool.
It says it right in the terms of service. While you're still here, I'll read it to you, because I agree that this is a vitally important thing, and the thing is that you know who's where because of who thinks it's funny. This is the thing. Like, if you know exactly where people stand when you put out a satire. Press editorial policy right at the bottom of planetwaves.net. Any page is the editorial policy. So I claim the right to do this, and anybody says you can't. Well, I say, well, yeah, but it's in my editorial policy. I mean, I wrote it, but I wrote it a long time ago. This is our policy. So let me screen share here for you, and we're going to share this. Use of satire and parody.
Mhm.
One of the genres we publish in is satire or parody, which may be on any topic. In Western society, this is designed as to raise the discussion of an issue in a way that mocks, uses humor, or reverses a viewpoint from that which readers are expecting. It has roots in many traditions, including the Hermetic tradition, from which astrology emerges. By the way, have you figured out how funny Aleister Crowley is? If you're ever,
Well, I do have a number of his books, as well as the different commentaries that Timothy Leary made on his work.
but the humor is infused. You have to be paying
It's,
attention. In the Book of Thoth, he is wicked. But if you're not paying attention,
right.
you miss it. And so it is part of an exercise in paying attention. So it has roots in many traditions, including Hermetic, the Lakota, and many indigenous, and lots of your favorite classical writers. I might have taken the word Heyoka out, but I added the Lakota. We do not label parody as such by saying this is written as satire. We leave it up to our readers to use and develop their discernment. However, the term breaking news is reserved for this purpose. And I changed the policy a year ago to say anything that claims to be news is now, that's your warning. If I say news. So we had Flat Earth News last year, Flat Earth Action Network, and so forth. Anyway.
No, you had the word Heyoka in there. I saw it.
Yeah, that's right. Heyoka tradition from the Lakota people. It is getting late. Yeah. And this is like, embarrassing. You've gone totally blurro there, Daniel. Which is the use of embarrassment as a means of waking up. Not big embarrassment, mild embarrassment. Are you okay there, Daniel? Or are you not getting back in? All right, Daniel may have disappeared into the ethers of the fourth dimension. Nope, he's back.
Yeah.
Good.
I had to, sometimes I have to reset the camera. Okay, here we
Look,
go.
after all this and all these years and all this discussion, I'm glad we're ending on the with an invocation of Heyoka, which is really keep your sense of humor and learn how to make fun of this shit. And we're in a serious situation, but you have to know how to skate along the top of it and see the humor in it. And the beauty of it is, you remember that this that I've written a lot of articles. I won a first place award for my coverage, but the most traction on the issue was obtained by a spoof on the graduation program. So that is something to bear in mind, and I think it may become a very effective tactic in the years to come.
Well, glad to be on the same team with you there, Eric.
Good. All right. Well, it's we've been at this. Well, I've been on for 3 hours and 20 minutes. That's incredible. Haven't even gotten up from this chair. That's like the longest I'll ever sit down. Thank you, Daniel. Jeff, you're still listening. Elijah, thank you so much for making this all happen. To all of you who are watching, and truly to those who pay a couple of bucks into Planet Waves or Chiron Return to make sure that I can get up in the morning and eat breakfast and come back and sit down at this chair and do my best work. I'm going to wake up in the morning and somewhere in here are the horoscopes for February and March. I'll be weekdays. I write horoscopes first thing in the morning, so I'll be doing that. So you have a horoscope to read every week, and this is not free. So, and those who pay, make sure that those who cannot pay can participate. That is one reason why if you have sufficient means, it's very important because we take seriously making sure that that everyone is included. And we did quite well on the Awakening, and we still are. And we were able to make sure that all the people who couldn't afford it could get it. And that is how our policy with subscriptions. And we can't really do it with my consulting, but honestly, anybody who gets through to me on the phone, I will help them out. So,
may I put in just a quick
yeah,
plug
please do for the school. Go for it.
Yeah, it's turningoftheages.com is the school's website. And we put out 2 free newsletters every month. And all you have to do is put your email in. We have a huge amount of free content on our site. And I plan to do in-person events again in 2025. So we have one in Arizona, we have one in New Mexico. And it's all really about getting together, heart to heart, soul to soul, person to person. And that's what we
Well, I hope someday there's
for.
something within like a driving distance of where I am, or a shortish flight.
Well, the one of the places we have a 7-day cosmology deep dive at a stone circle that I designed at a hot springs in between Deming and Silver City in New Mexico. Closest airport is El Paso. And then the other event I'm doing for our school is near Tucson, a place called Oracle, Arizona. And so we're at a ranch facility there for that event. That's in April. And I'm also doing another group at Callanish in the Hebrides, for the second of 2 lunar standstill events that are happening there at that place. Massive, ancient, 6,000-year-old stone circle. So there's 3 different trips that I'm doing this year. All that information is in our newsletter. And definitely check out turningoftheages.com. And Eric and I are in collaboration on a lot of things. We share each other's stuff, and happy to be part of particularly your tireless and courageous investigatory journalism. Very, very important.
I do my best, and I will always be a news journalist. I will always be an investigative reporter. Love and curiosity.
Okay, we'll see you next time. All right.
Yeah, good. Everyone, thank you very much for participating in what has become a real thing on the internet now. 26, 27 years Planet Waves has been around. So to everyone who's participated over all this time, and thank you. All right.
Right.
I'm going to end the meeting. Thank you so much. And I'm going to push the button now.
I got you. I'm gonna end it right now.
All right. Good.
Talk to you later.